I am far from average. To me, it ain't no such thing. Me against the world, so fuck it, I let my nuts hang. I've been known to bust bang, kill it if the need be. I don't need an army when the smoke clears, he sees me.
Yo, what's up? What's up? This your guy Ray Hama, one versus a million. I'm not your fan, I'm not your stand for. I am brother. Happy New Year, y'all. This is my New Year's stream. So what's up? It's basically open. If anybody's up, which I'm bet that you guys are, because depending on who goes live, you guys will pop right up no matter what time it is. So, but hey, watching something else, you decide to check me out on the replay. Hey, check me out on the replay tribe. So yeah, I'm fine with that. But for the replay tribe and for those who are coming in, please hit the like, share, and subscribe, and hit the follow for over here on the Rumble side. I do have the Rumble channel link in the description, and for you guys to join over here for my Rumble for when I be having anime and movie nights. And speaking of which, the next feature is going to be a martial arts movie, old one, but it's a classic, and it's basically held in high regard because it's a depiction of the history of Master Oyama, Sensei Oyama, founder of the Kyokushinkai Ryu. So, diving into his story and everything else, his upbringing and his trials of what he went through and everything, especially during the war and the aftermath of the war and everything that led up to him becoming the legend that he is. So yeah, that and some other stuff down the line. And yes, and shout out to you guys. So yeah, and happy New Year to y'all, and I hope this year will be better for you guys as well. Uh, so I know for a decent amount of people, this year was kind of rough for them as well as it was for me this past year. And our hopes is God has blessed us to make it here to this point. Amen. Uh, that we shall continue on marching forward, striving to complete our goals fearlessly, and willing to knock over anyone and anything that gets in our way by whatever means necessary. Because we know it's crunch time. That we can't play no games. We ain't playing no games in 2026. Nope, not at all. And yeah, and so one of my goals, as I will give you guys, will be in finding a lawyer. Finding a damn lawyer. Yeah, because I was told that, by others who have been having trouble finding lawyers for similar issues. They've been looking for a lawyer for a great while as well. So, yeah, that's one of them I'll give you. So, yeah, so drop, your goal, one of your goals at least, one of the things you'd like to do that you're going to strive towards, to achieve this year. Put that in there. And yeah, man, this was one hell of a year, I tell you. Straight the hell up, man. This has been one hell of a year. Mind you, yeah, I'm cooking it this early. So yeah, I'll be chilling back, munching and watching these videos with you guys that I have in store. So this is random video day, just celebration of the new year. Those some videos that came out days or weeks or whatever before New Year's. And there was other content too that I wanted to cover, but I didn't want to spend too long on this because I want to hurry up and get to the movie night. So I want to hurry up and get that in order. get my editing and everything together, boom, so I can have that done, and then just hurry up and fire up the stream. So I may plan on having 2 features playing, and um, kind of leaning a little strong towards another martial art movie. I don't know if it was a series, but they said Avatar, The Last Airbender, has a live action series that's out right basically like I think they're on season 2 or something like that, or season 2 is paused or whatever. Um, and that they're coming out because they're coming out with a movie or whatever. I don't know, but I gotta check. So I may end up downloading that and sharing that with you guys as well over on the Rumble side. Um, and yeah, I'm just just trying to get a little creative, this year as we all should strive to be, for our own peak interest and for our own enjoyment and excitement. Because as it will increase, the more you broaden your mind and choose to take in everything that is of good, that is good and righteous, nothing of evil whatsoever. But speaking of evil shit, man, y'all feel free to chop it up with me, man. And anytime, leave thoughts in the comment section, whatever what you think. But guys, I'm kind of like regret, man, sleeping on Stranger Things because I'm like, when people kept shouting like Stranger Things, and uh, I was like, well, I got other shit, that seemed more exciting lined up or whatnot. So, and I was like, I kind of regret it, man, because there's like some little love hate moments, man, that I'm experiencing, man, within this show thus far. I'm like, oh, good girl, I like you, girl. Yeah, girl, that was good, girl. You did good job, damn good job, girl. Stupid girl, what the fuck is wrong with you, girl? You stupid ass girl, you should have listened. You should have listened to your stepdad. I'm like, oh man, I'm having those kind of moments, and I'm like, oh shit. I'm like, they're having like real straight up, red pill moments, boy, in this motherfucker, man. And blue pill moments too as well, especially that one black dad in there because I'm on season 3. I just hopped on season 3, so and I've been kind of like a little binging, you know what I mean? So putting a little anime on the side for a minute, because I had to take a break from anime because I was watching like a whole bunch of that anime, because as you know, anime is king when it comes to the creativity of of television, and entertainment. So yeah, so now I'm doing that, and it's cool. It's easy to binge because it's fucking 8 episodes each season. I first thought, that as the seasons go, that the episodes would increase, but I forgot. I'm like, I had to slap myself in the head. Damn, Ray. Of course not, Ray. They're not going to do that because, like with the other franchises that Netflix pushes out, when they give you all the episodes and at once, that was like some kind of I noticed that was a trend that they're trying to set to be strong and to continue on for God knows how long, of them now, instead of giving us, as I noticed that with Hollywood shit. But with anime, now it's the same with anime, as we're going to have a video about that as well, about how now they're pushing and they're ending this to where you're getting you're getting it just in the same how Netflix been uh, producing them out, which is instead of like an episode each week, you're getting all of the episodes. You know, what I mean, right then and there, like soon as it comes out. But it's every so anime. They said it's going to be every what 5 to 6 months of them doing that. So you know, like every 5 month setting. So therefore, so that will give. So I'll be able to give the writers and the uh, and the creative idea people, all them, to give them a break. So, and I'm like, yeah, I can understand that. Yeah, I see that because of the blood and sweat that goes into making this shit. Yeah, I salute that. And I kind of like had a problem with first. I'm like, motherfuckers, man, damn, why y'all do that shit to one of my awesome shows? What the hell wrong with y'all? Then I got to think. I'm like, thank you, God. I appreciate that because, man, and the reason that they're doing that is due to because of the flood of anime that's came out. Well, I mean, thanks to the juggernauts that that's been pushed for years, and going on that long, on decades of a streak of where they uh, operated in the structure of giving us these episodes by the week instead of just in a seasonal thing where they give you a whole like 24 episodes or something like that in a 5 month period. Yeah, so I'm like, well, you thanks to them because the animes that came out, boom, that's been coming out, that it's been coming out damn near fast as Jordan shoes. you know Hell, thanks to the juggernauts, Goku, Luffy, Naruto, and them. Because those creators, those artists, and those writers and directors got their inspiration from the OGs. So, in a way, I'm looking at, I'm trying to look at things on the brighter side, and just learning to have more appreciation for certain things, because within that appreciation, that gives me what time to do other stuff as well as time for other awesome badass projects in the works that we can sit back and have fun and chop it up and cover. So, but yeah, that and also this year, guys, here in the Black Manosphere and abroad. What I want to see is, as I boldly would tell you, is this: I want to see more talks of you guys and women bringing up more of these shady ass cases with these law enforcements, right? Because y'all talk about politics so deep and everything else, So therefore, this year I want to see you guys lean more on that because you guys knew, and some cats, um, like Brother Edward, have pointed out that there are certain things that needs to be talked about more. And I believe strongly, as I say from my heart to you, my brothers, is that I would like for you guys to, not a demand or whatever, but I would say this is a vital subject to beat that damn hammer on that dead horse. Continue on beating it because it's really not a dead horse because it's still living. It's still going on. You know, I don't care how successful of a black man you have arisen to be. Is from what I can tell, as being the man on the wall, especially just this past year and two, just going back just 2 years with it. Yeah, them guys in higher echelons be getting smacked with a whole bunch of crazy shit, false accusations. Damn, like how many false accusations, damn it, hell, and wrongful arrests that happened this past year? A lot. Which I was looking to download one particular video that I shared probably a few months ago or so of from the police accountability report. Shout out to them, uh, Real News Network. Of them, because they was the ones that did it. They brought forth the content showing that there was a system, if you will, that was going about, that was happening in Tennessee, of where a system where basically they established a quota system where basically, okay, they was charged with committing as many arrests as they can, no matter if they are not actually a DUI. So therefore, bro, they chose to commit a whole bunch of false DUI, wrongful DUI arrests. And to show you that it's not just the victim of these situations, speaking against this, but it was also a couple of a couple of officers themselves that basically sacrificed their job to come out, and speak the truth against that particular department. So therefore, I would like to see you guys cover more cases like that because they got, hey, they got busted, and there was a recording involved too as well of, I think, the police chief himself telling the officers basically what to do. He's caught. That's his voice. He's hit. So that's all I'm saying. To all you guys, all the scholars, and all y'all. Yeah, that's it's like y'all too. It's like y'all so deep into politics to the degree to where you choose to be blind towards certain important situations. What if a man did or is following the steps you guys have given him, advice you're giving him when it comes to financially and educationally? Okay. He's doing that. He's on the straight and narrow. He's putting in his due diligence. He's putting in that damn grit as he's showing before God. Amen. But guess what? He come across a situation, and it's a God you guys really take a liking to, right? This is just, hypothetically speaking, like, so like it's one of you guys, that on this shit here, on YouTube or in real life that you hold dear, someone that listens to you, whatever, and the wisdom and the knowledge you guys harbor. Okay, bet he come across the same situation or similar, a wrongful arrest case, and he's struggling to try to find a damn lawyer. Then my question would be, okay, for that one that you've been talking to, giving all this political knowledge to, right, and all other knowledge or whatever to help him to secure a better future and a more better financial independent situation as a man should be in. as a man should strive for. Okay, he's doing all that, but you mean to tell me that after all that, you cannot bring forth any help to your fellow man slash brother in regards to helping him find a damn lawyer so he can sue the damn that particular police department, get a settlement, and by you putting in that little work, as I know you guys would, but it just depends on who. So I get it. You don't really have to say it like that. You know what I mean? Like, hey, it may be true where you guys may not have the knowledge of or whatever, but I would say that that's kind of sad. That's really fucking sad. You know what I mean? But, you know, by you helping him and he wins that settlement, hell, you know that man, damn hell, as much as you helped him or whatever, and you helped him, and you chose them not to turn him down, but to help him in that great time of need, which is to find a fucking lawyer to get justice for what the fuck was done to him. You don't think, damn it, that motherfucker, damn it, before God, that He will bless you back for you putting in just that little oomph in helping him to secure that, by linking him and helping connecting him with a lawyer that will actually help him to achieve that, especially when your fellow man has evidence. It's totally nonsensical, man. And on that note, to me, it's unacceptable. So much so to where until you guys produce that knowledge, you will never get certain brownie points back with me. And that's going to all the brothers across the board in the black manosphere. Select two was of some degree of help. But the rest of y'all, man, that's sad as shit. And then you got these same guys that want to boast and act like that they're better than you because, to a degree, because you don't have a certain degree of political knowledge. So therefore, you don't get respect like that. Okay, but you don't have shit that can actually help such a one. Shit that's intertwinedly related to political shit, which is wrongful arrest cases that's apparently been happening for for God knows how long now. I know that shit's been happening ever since the beginning and shit, blah blah. But that don't mean that we should just toss it over our shoulder like no. We should put a focus on that and saying like stop. This should not that shit shall not continue to the end of damn time. With us, black man, FBA, no, for there shall be war. So when we're in my meeting before I continue on, where I say that you guys lost brownie points with me in that, right? Is this. Miss me with that holding your head and your chest out up over a motherfucker because, like you better than, and so therefore you think through that, you think you got a right to talk to a motherfucker any kind of certain way or whatever because a motherfucker don't hold the same degree or close to the same degree of knowledge as you do when it comes to political matters. Or that geopolitical shit. We're gonna put a hammer on that right now. Because why? Your politics don't mean shit if you can't utilize it to help your fellow black man slash black brother who has went through some shit that is not uncommon, should be well known to those who practice law, so much so enough to where it should It should be common to be able to find a lawyer to go against that shit with hardly any fucking headaches. Just said, I mean, catch my meaning. The same thing with accidents, right? Fucking car accidents, right? Okay. And since there's so much of that, right? Should we say, oh well, man, damn, the car accidents been happening since, damn it, since the beginning, motherfucker? So therefore, yeah, so we should just act nonchalant about it, oblivious to the fact, damn it, that that's a problem. That there should be no regulations, damn it, hell, to help drive a nail through these motherfuckers, damn it, hell. There's breaking the laws and causing danger or mayhem on on these roads. No, damn it, they gonna catch their ass, tax their ass, and all that shit because these same motherfuckers driving wild and crazy. Hell, half the time don't give a damn about their own life. Yeah, along with somebody else's, damn it. So they're gonna cause mayhem, damn it, to take themselves out and somebody else. Hence, so therefore, because it's been globally recognized as a problem, therefore that's why, in its global sense, mainly here in America, speaking here more predominantly here in America, that's why, therefore, they develop those systems, boom, which funds money into their court system because they see that, hey, motherfuckers gonna continue being dumb and not show no courtesy on the fucking roads and shit like they should. So therefore, boom, so we gonna get there. So we gonna create these damn laws, damn it, to help govern, to make a safer, you know, uh, to establish a safer traffic system. Cause no grown person or child wants to die on the road because of some crazy fuck. So therefore, no, they established that. So therefore, as it is the same for those who've been wronged by the damn police when it comes to wrongful arrest. So at least tell me, damn it, oh, damn, these wrongful arrests are happening at the same rate as these damn car accidents. Not that I'm saying, damn, hey, this is totally exact with each other, same par, hell, one may be more than the other, but shit, they are neck and neck close. It's being a fucking problem. That damn chief that shout out to Gail at night, Sister Gail at night, for sharing it. I don't know what happened to her. I look for it. I should be still in my history. But she just shared a video recently, like earlier yesterday, about a police chief, a white police chief in wherever the fuck weird name county, uh, basically got in trouble, basically got fired from his damn job. Motherfucker got totally removed and shamed, publicly shamed, because it was revealed that he was spying on females through them damn cameras and shit, through traffic cams and all that other shit. He was in those systems, so they called him on all that shit. Misuse of public property, public equipment or whatever. I mean, not public equipment, but fucking uh, government property. You might as well say shit. Yeah, but my point is that it should not be this fucking hard to find legal representation for that. And I received some kind of consolation when I realized that, damn, I'm not the only one. That feeling, man, where just these motherfuckers, man, have their way of trying to put a veil over your eyes to make it seem like that that it's just you, not necessarily that there's something wrong with you, as they may allude to, like half the time sometimes, but they'll try to put a veil over your eyes to make you believe that, oh, that no man, it's just that's just you, man, going through that problem. Nobody else is going through that problem. And it's just such a breath of fresh air when you find other people, man, that's going through some of the same similar shit. Some more strongly similar than others. And they're having a fucking rough time. So yeah, that's a fucking problem. Because we ain't gonna keep on putting up with this shit. For there shall be a reckoning. I will leave it there. Because we ain't gonna continue to just take, and ball up. For no, we are not about that here. That is not a part of the one versus a million. So, as I boldly say, I don't know how far this shit will reach, how far YouTube will let this shit reach. But hey, but if my numbers are low over here on the on the YouTube, it's gonna be higher over here on the Rumble side. So I ain't tripping either that way. But yeah, and YouTube. There's been videos made out about you motherfuckers, him and all y'all in these ads and shit. There's a massive surge of a fucking ad problem. Like saturating people with ads or whatever. No, dumbasses. That's gonna make people not want to buy your fucking product when you keep putting it in their fucking face. And there's some cases where there was I think Poor Man Podcast, yeah, shout out to him. He posted a video uh, about that there's certain other devices there, especially devices that's connected with these refrigerators now and shit. Yeah, that cost a whole bunch of damn money. It was reports about there's the people still receiving ads even though they pay for the premium. So why the fuck should I pay for the premium? For when y'all set that up for people to to escape the ads as y'all would constantly advertise. Not just on YouTube too, and there's others as well to do that, even Spotify. So no, fuck your premium. I'ma just use the use some shadow apps. Use the shadow apps on your asses. I just shit never took the time to go ahead and download it because the source of where I go through them and where I see apps like that. Whereas it seems that one can, download the app and bypass these fucking ads and shit. All right, but I'm just ain't at that annoyed point yet, as we just should go ahead and leave it there with that one. But back to this, brothers. Let's put a lot more focus on that, okay? Because I'm gonna try to do my part too as well on that. Man, I'm trying to stay up on it and everything, and even if I got to share some other brothers and sisters content, who caught it first through whatever source that they use, and boom, I'm gonna do my part in sharing it to help keep putting these motherfucking faces to let them know that we shall not continue on to keep dealing with this bullshit. Y'all cannot just do whatever to us in our lives and continue to get away with it and go off into the fucking sunset. No more, for there shall be a fucking reckoning. And to all those, Devin, who can't help people in my group, people who have been wronged by these damn shitty ass law enforcement, they're supposed to be there to protect and serve. May whatever happens in the blood be on y'all heads. And I'll leave right there. So, enough with that. Little frustrated, little mini rant. But aside from that, yeah, back onto some other shit, man. Yeah, so I got a bunch of videos that I downloaded, some mixture of stuff relate to the Geekverse, and some big news within the Geekverse too. So yeah, and the other stuff is of other nature. So yeah, we're gonna go ahead and dive into check that out while I go check on my food. And yeah. And so and again, Happy New Year. It's your host, your guy Ray Hama, one versus a million. I'm not your fan, I'm not your stand for, I am your brother. All right. And we are gonna get into it. So let's check out. I'm gonna just go down the list for you guys. And I'm gonna give my commentary afterwards. Let's go. Well, let me see if I can put the link in the chat too for people to come on. I'll just put over there on the side during the video. All right, here we go. Video number one.
I decided for this month I was just going to start picking up the mic and start rambling on stuff that came to mind and see where it goes and see if it sticks. So when I listen back, whether I can put it up or not. So I'm sitting here and I'm thinking about marriage, black marriage. And because somebody said, how come men or black men don't get married? And it's really obvious why black men don't get married, probably shouldn't get married, is because the average marriage only lasts 8 years. And the average black marriage only lasts 5 years. And with the expense and risk of marriage and all that kind of crap, it's probably not worth it to get married for that short a time, especially when 80% of the time it's going to be initiated by the woman. It really makes no sense to pursue a woman, vet her, date her, and then ultimately put a ring on her finger and marry her. That, if you think about it, from the time that you meet her, most times it's at least 2-year process before you actually put a ring on her finger and marry her. So you invest 7 years, probably have a couple kids, and then the other thing is that you're going to be paying, if you had a couple kids, you're going to be paying for another 18 years of investment for what? For 5 years of happiness, supposedly. If you're happy, you're probably going to only be happy for a year or two. Doesn't make sense. And probably the best time you're going to have with that woman is before you get married. Why you married in the first place. Anyhow, I was thinking about that. And then I might do another video on that later. But what I was thinking about, what got me thinking about is Michelle Obama. I know, our favorite gynocrat. And not from the perspective that you would think. Right? We already know that how she is with Barack. We already know that she downs Barack. She talks, you know, sneak disses Barack when she gets a chance. And she's been doing that since we've known about her. Probably she's been doing it since she got with him. But that's not the angle I'm coming at. What I actually got to thinking about it, what I actually considered was, does Michelle think about being happy? Is she a happy person? Because every time I look at Michelle, every time I see Michelle, for the most part, she's not a happy person. She really isn't. She doesn't, she commands a room because she's been taught, because of her stature, because of her status. She commands a room, but she doesn't light up a room. Regardless of what you say, Barack Obama lights up a room. Barack Obama seems to be the exact opposite of Michelle. Barack Obama, regardless of what you think about him, seems to be a happy person. Whether it's on stage, during politics, whether it's in a person doing an interview. Now he'll do a serious interview, but you get a idea that Barack Obama is a happy person. Unlike Joe Biden, unlike maybe even Bill Clinton. Barack Obama seems to be a very content, happy person. He's really content with himself. He's content with where he is because he's content with what he does. He seems to be a happy person. Michelle does not. Most first ladies seem to be a very congenial, happy, enjoyable person. Michelle does not. And it grabbed me that, why is she not a happy person? Why is she not happy? Why is she continuously sad looking? Because you had a great life. Maybe your father did die. Maybe there's some stuff that happened to you. But guess what? You went to an Ivy League school. You got a law degree from Ivy League school. You had a great job. You lived a 0.1% life. Even when you got married, was it rocky sometimes? I'm sure it was. But the thing is, you were on a roller coaster ride with that man. You can't say that your life was not exciting. That's one thing you can't say. You cannot say that your life was dull. It wasn't dull. You and your children had a great life. You and your children had a 0.1% life, probably 0.0001% life. You got to meet the Queen. You got to meet all these dignitaries. You got to do things that 99.99% of black women on this planet could never do, ever, including Beyonce, including the people that you said you would love to be. And I'm just wondering, I was wondering if Barack or not, with the talents that she has, with the life path that she had, if she could go back and change something in her life, what would she do? She's not a singer. She's not a pretty person, say like Beyonce. She can't, you can't remake yourself from birth. But given what she had, if she could go back and do it all over again, what would she do? How would she live? What kind of career would she have? Who would she marry? Say if it was Barack. Say she married Barack at almost 30 years old. Say she married him and she was his wife. If she could go back and control the destiny of her and him, what would she do and what would he do? Because he was destined for politics. He said he wanted to be president when he was a teenager. He knew where his path was. He surrounded himself with people that knew what his path was. Thing is, did she know what her path was? She never said what her path was going to be. She never said what she wanted out of life. Because evidently she didn't like this. She didn't like him being in politics. She didn't like him being president. She hated him being president. She hated him being in politics. You can tell it's painful when she goes on stage. Now, she'll perform. She commands the room. She gives a good speech. But this is not her passion. Even with her podcast. Now, why she has a podcast, I don't know. She's sitting there talking to her brother, and they're supposed to be chummy. But even with that, it comes out that I am not a happy person. I'm not happy to be here in front of this audience. I'm not happy to be here and talk about what I'm talking about. I'm not happy. So I'm curious about Michelle Obama. I would really love to know if she could go back and do things over again. I know she'll never tell. At least I don't think she'll ever tell. I would love to sit down with her for like 30 minutes and say, baby, spill it. Just between me and you. What did you want out of your life? Barack or not? If it wasn't Barack, who? Who would you want to marry? Who would you want to have your kids by? And maybe she didn't want to have kids. Maybe she wanted to be an auntie. Maybe she wanted to live the independent Chicago life where she was a high-powered business person with a law degree. Perhaps that. Perhaps she's more like Jasmine Crockett. Who knows? I'm just curious because she seems like the whole time she was with Barack, the whole time she was married to Barack, it was torture. When the kids were little, you're in Chicago, your mother's helping out. Your brother's helping out. You have a whole host of people that can help you do what you do. People, you have plenty of money. If you want to hire a nanny, hire help, you can't complain about you and the kids being little. There's lots of different things you could have done. The thing is, every little thing about you and your marriage to Barack was painful, including the White House. So I'm wondering, what in this world would have made you happy? What in the world does make you happy? Because I don't think I've ever heard her say what she does absolutely makes her happy. Nothing. I mean, no hobby, no passion, nothing. Haven't heard it. You can see when Barack reads a book, Barack has an artist. He completely enjoys that artist. When he goes to play basketball, he completely enjoys playing basketball. He has a passion for this. And she seems to be the exact opposite. She seems to be a curmudgeon with a stank face half the time. It's like, I don't get it. I would really love to hear that. I would really love to know that. What would make her happy? What would finally, after all these years, when she could turn the key and live her best life and be happy doing it, where she has a smile on her face every day, what would it be? Or maybe she enjoys being unhappy. Some people do. Anyhow, that's just a thought. So I decided just to put it down on wax and see how it turns out. It may be, bunk. But you never know. With that, I'm going to jump off here. This is BGS out, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.
Yo, what's up, man? Yeah, like no matter what the hell she desires to do, Michelle, she was supposed to follow her husband's program and do what a wife should do for him, and thus his joy will pour out over her. But she's just selfish and self-centered and only care about what the hell she wants. So therefore, boom. So she's dragging him along like some matriarchal slave. And thank you, Obamas, for showing us the failed power couple. All right. So yeah, next video. Shout out to BGS, by the way.
Andrew Tate destroys his reputation after a humiliating loss. I ain't gonna lie, I watched this fight live, and Andrew Tate need to go ahead and give me my $100 back. That junk was an absolute snooze fest. They was doing so much hugging, it looked more like jiu-jitsu or wrestling to me. I don't know what was going on.
I said
Absolute
to Tristan,
snooze fest.
the universe probably owes me this win, you know? I've been through so much. God and the universe probably owe me this win. I'm going to train my ass off, but after all I've been through, they'll give it to me. Big bag of beatings with my name on it. Maybe my job on this planet is just to take a fucking beating over and over again and just pay for everyone else and give everybody else what they want. Maybe I'm just here to fucking suffer and get my ass kicked, and I'm going to do it all so I can give everyone else a fantastic life and give everyone else mindset advice. Nobody gives me mindset advice.
No, I think you just bought a boxing league, the Misfits Boxing from KSI, and the best way to promote that boxing league was for you to get in the ring yourself because you knew that's what people wanted to see and people would pay to see it. I think it was just a business move, brother. I think it was just a money grab. I don't think you're Jesus Christ. I don't think you're dying for people's sins. Like, he's up here right now. He got to come on down to right here. I was like, okay. He's like, I'm fighting for everybody else. No, I think you're trying to make $20 million. I think that's what it is.
Nobody helps me.
It's just a boxing
Nobody
league.
helps me with my mindset and saves me when I'm depressed. No, maybe I'm just here to take a fucking beating like a piñata and give candy to everybody else. Maybe that's what God's plan was for me.
All right, so Andrew Tate has been going through it recently after losing a boxing match last week, which was supposed to be a big comeback moment for him, because he was a world championship kickboxer when he was younger.
Right, but he was doing kickboxing, though. It's a totally different sport. Like, if you take a kickboxer, even a really good kickboxer, and you put them against a really good boxer, a kickboxer's going to have a tough time. Because, sure, boxing is a part of the sport of kickboxing, but it's equivalent to like, taking a football player. Sprinting is a part of football, right? But if you take the average football player and you put them against a pure sprinter, they're not going to stand a chance, generally speaking. Outside of a few names like Tyreek Hill, for the most part, they're not going to stand a chance because even though it's a part of that sport, it's still a totally different thing. So he was a professional kickboxer, like 15 years ago? I had a back injury that took me out of rugby. I used to play rugby for the USA national team. This is my medal right here from the 2019 Pan American Games. I play rugby, and after an injury that I had, I took 2 years off the sport, and I came back, and I made it to the national level again. Don't get me wrong, but I just wasn't the same, right? So taking that time off of a professional sport definitely affects your performance, and I think that, he took a lot of time out of the sport, and he was doing something that's really a different sport. Kickboxing and boxing are really different sports, and if you know about combat sports, you know that.
He's always posting videos of himself boxing, and obviously being a fighter is a big part of his persona. So competing in this influencer boxing league was a way for him to prove himself and to try to get back in the spotlight.
Yeah.
Because, he's fallen off quite a bit over the past few years.
Has he?
So this match was a big opportunity for him, and he needed to win this, and he was supposed to win pretty easily because of his experience, and the guy he fought is a reality TV star that barely knows how to fight.
But it's crazy, though, because a lot of people use this word like fall off, and sometimes I'm just thinking, like, do you expect somebody to be at the peak of their popularity forever? Like, would you say he fell off if he just made $20 million? I'd get my ass kicked for a lot less. I'd get in that ring and give it my best shot for a lot less. $20 million is a lot of money to walk away with, and I don't really call that fall. If that's falling off, I want to fall off. Let me fall off. So, like, people throw this term around like falling off, and it's like, yeah, well, people aren't going to forever be at their peak popularity. That's kind of, it's kind of the nature of the game.
So going into this, the odds for Tate to win, according to Polymarket, were close to 90%. Then after the first round or two, the odds plummeted, and he ended up losing by decision. And
I would imagine that's a bunch of his fans that believe that he would win because they just, they don't really understand sports, and they don't understand what 15 years of taking off of a sport can do to you, and they don't understand the fact that he's 40 years old, right?
I was really underwhelmed by his performance and how bad the fight was, because Tate was supposed to show people what a real fighter looks like and prove he's not just an influencer.
Crazy picture.
But most fight commentators were just like, what the hell was that? And Ariel Helwani said it might be the biggest fraud check of all time.
Is it fair to say that the greatest fraud check of all time happened on Saturday when Andrew Tate lost to Chase Damore? He should have never taken this fight. If there was any sort of doubt about him winning, he should have never taken this fight.
Why?
And now he's going online and he's doing the babyface thing of like, and I'd rather try and fail. No, that's not who you are.
Is he throwing a pity party?
Your persona has nothing to do with failure. Your persona is about winning. Your persona is about achieving wealth and success. Your persona is not about trying, and hey, if you don't succeed, you gave it the old college try. That is the antithesis of everything that you have spewed. Miss me with the like, I'm proud of myself for trying, and I went in there against the champion who's really good. No, you didn't. You went in there and you looked awful and you failed.
As far as
I do understand the criticism, but I'm sorry. I'm a peasant. Like, I live in the real world here, and I don't know how rich you have to be for $20 million to not be enough for you to risk it, right? Especially if you're not doing anything that's degrading to yourself. You're going into a boxing match, you train, you hope that you're going to win. Of course, you should be confident in yourself that you're going to win. That's what I would do. I would train as hard as I can. I would lie to myself and be as confident as I possibly could before I got into the ring. And win, lose, or draw, if I walk away with $20 million, that's not a loss to me. In my personal opinion, it's not about winning or losing a fight, even if we're just talking about two different men that have an issue with each other. It's more about the willingness to fight to me. Like, the spirit of a man that's willing to fight for something they believe in, or to fight to protect something that they love, is more important than if that man wins or loses the fight, if that makes any sense to me. So I feel like this criticism is coming from people that are being dishonest. Either it's coming from people that are not even willing to get into the rings themselves because they're weenies. They sit behind podcasts and just talk shit about people who actually do the thing. Or it's coming from ex-fighters who are lying to themselves and acting like they're too big to get $20 million. I'm sure a lot of the ex-fighters that have had this conversation would be willing to get into the ring, even if they knew that they were going to lose in front of everybody, risk their quote-unquote reputation, which, in my personal opinion, I don't think it's going to negatively affect Andrew Tate's reputation. I think the people who like Andrew Tate are going to respect the fact that he was willing to get into the ring and fight. I think that that's what it's going to be for him, to be honest. I think it gives ammunition to the people who don't like him, but for the people who already like him, I don't think that they're going to go, Andrew Tate's not my hero. I don't like what Andrew Tate says anymore. I'm going to stop watching him because he lost a boxing match at 40 years old. I think that they're going to respect the fact that he was willing at 40 years old to get back into the ring to give it a shot. So, you know, it's either commentators that are not willing to fight, or commentators that are not willing to fight, or it's coming from ex-fighters that are being dishonest, like they wouldn't take some money to go lose a match. Maybe I'm just broke. I don't know how rich you have to be for $20 million to take this risk. I would not be able to take it.
skill and ability, it underdelivered.
Did Tate look bad?
Yeah.
Yeah, he looked horrible. It did look good.
It didn't look good.
Yeah,
There's no way to say
He's
it.
been smoking them damn cigars. He's been chain smoking them cigars and hookah. That's what he's been doing. That's the problem.
He looked gassed after 3 rounds.
Yeah. Very low level. I've seen a lot of Misfits fights. I've seen a lot of influencer boxing matches. They were all better than this.
Yeah.
Or a plummet. I think he never should have done this. In hindsight, he never should have done this.
MMA Guru is goated, by the way. He is just a commentator, but I love his commentary. I'm not going to lie.
This was supposed to be his big re-entry into the world. But this was like a big humiliation for him. Because Chase is awful and he still lost.
So this performance was terrible for Tate's image, you know, because like Ariel was saying, his whole persona is being a cocky alpha male tough guy who's the best at everything, who really knows how to fight. Like, he's a championship kickboxer. You always hear about that. And he's trained his whole life.
Bro, people who knew how to fight really well still lose fights, especially when they get older and they stop fighting for 15 years. That happens, bro. And maybe I'm speaking as an ex-athlete who understands like how when you leave the sport, this affects you. But this is coming from people who have never competed in anything seriously in their lives.
He almost fought Alex Pereira at one point, and he could have been in the UFC if he had trained for it. So he's hyped himself up like crazy.
Now that's a lie.
Also over the summer, he claimed to have fought 60 guys in a row. But then last week during his fight, he was completely gassed by the 3rd round.
Yeah, anybody who believed that he fought 60 people in a row have never boxed. Have never done any combat sport. It's something very specific about combat sports where I don't care how conditioned you are in every single arena. You start punching for 2 minutes straight and you realize it's a totally different. You have to train to condition for boxing or MMA to do it. You can't just do it other types of. You have to get ready for that to do that thing. It's very exhausting.
I mean, he was just trying to survive at that point,
Yeah,
which obviously was not his goal in that fight at all. People thought this was going to be a layup, you know, an easy W for him. Then he'd go on to call out Jake Paul or KSI or somebody. So now he has to rethink his whole boxing career after one comeback fight. I mean, this was a total disaster for him. And now it seems like the cope is starting to set in. Like right after his loss, he was pretty humble about it. But then a few days after, he did a live stream that turned into a giant cope session.
Wait, what did he say right here? Let me read this. 100 years from now, somewhere on the new earth, there will be a man reading about me in a history section of Skynet. No, I don't think that's true. Yeah, I don't think that's. And that's not because I never lost, but instead because I always tried. Yeah, I respect people who try things.
About it. But then a few days after, he did a live stream that turned into a giant cope session, and this just made things so much worse. because now he's trying to think of any excuse he can while also saying he isn't making excuses. I mean, he talks about how he would have won if he didn't get tired. And he's like, I don't know why I got tired. You know, maybe I'm too old. Maybe he's leaning on me too much.
Maybe you would have won if you didn't get tired, but you got tired, and that's why you lost. Shoulda, coulda, woulda, loser.
But of course, he won't admit maybe he should have done more cardio training.
Exactly,
You know, instead he acts like he did everything he possibly could leading up to this fight, and the reason he lost was just out of his control.
He deserves the credit. He earned it. And I'm not going to take that away from him with excuses, talking about rematches, making up bullshit about how he grabbed me or some crap. He won, and he deserves it. And I pay my debts. I've not yet had time to process why he beat me. I got tired after the second round.
Right.
And I don't know why. The first and second round, he couldn't touch me. If I didn't get tired, I would have won.
Yeah, but you did, though.
I'm a better boxer. But I did get tired.
Yeah, but part of boxing is having stamina. That's a part of the sport. You could be good for a while, but if you don't have the endurance, that's when you lose. That's a part of the thing. You're not a better boxer if you lost because you was tired. That's a part of the boxing, right? Like, I can't say I'm a better marathon runner because I start the marathon sprinting full speed for 200 meters, right? And they just finish and go, well, I'm faster than everybody else. No, that's not how that works.
Maybe it's ring rust. Maybe I'm too old. Maybe he's too heavy and he kept leaning on me. I don't know why. But he beat me. And let me make something else very clear to you. I have complete respect for Chase D'Amour.
And of course now also he's acting like, well, at least I tried. That's what's most important. It's so funny. This loss just destroyed his whole persona. Tate from a few years ago would be mocking this kind of participation trophy mentality. I mean, this is supposed to be the top G, you know, the number one alpha male everybody looks up to, who just wins at everything. Like, he once tweeted, what do you call someone who loses? A loser.
Yeah, I try to defend you, brother, but this is unacceptable because, look, I understand we live in this participation medal kind of culture. Everybody's supposed to be a winner. You're online. The best thing to do to get engagement and clicks and views is to be hyperbolic. So you say something like, what do you call someone who loses? A loser. But this is damning evidence, brother, because by your own definition now, you are a loser. Loser. But see, like, I always lean back on this, and everything isn't about money to me, but it's not about money when it compromises your morality. To me, going into it, I don't know if I'm just a broke bitch because I keep going back to this. I don't know if I'm just a brokey because for me to take the risk to win $20 million, I'm going to train my hardest and do my best, but I'm going to take that risk. $20 million is enough for me to take that risk. So are you really a loser? You lost the battle, but you kind of won the war. Right? I go into the boxing ring and lose the battle, but on the back end, when I get that $20 million check, I kind of won the war. Maybe I'm just broke. Maybe I don't care about legacy enough because I don't think that it would affect my legacy to try and fail. But by his own definition, especially if you're just talking about the boxing match, he's a loser. You're a loser. But I'm a loser too by that definition. That medal I just showed you was a bronze medal. I take pride in it. I gave it my all in that rugby tournament, and so I take pride in the medal that I got. I don't think everybody's going to win everything, so there are damn near everybody in the world is a loser by this definition then, and I'm okay with being that then.
One loses, and I deserve credit for at least trying.
Napoleon is in the history books. He lost battles. Muhammad Ali lost.
True.
Tyson lost.
These are true things.
Champions sometimes lose. Sometimes the stars just don't align and you just lose. And you have to know that, and you accept that when you agree to take the risk in the first place.
And sometimes you don't prepare well, and sometimes when you was sleeping on the ground, you had more hunger. You was younger. You had more hunger towards the thing you're doing, but now you're rich, you got comfortable, because that's when Mike Tyson started to lose. He started to lose once he got wealthy, got comfortable, and started doing cocaine and sleeping with supermodels. That's when he started to lose. When he was young and hungry, he still had it in him. I think Tate has been living a very comfortable life. Not only has he aged out of the sport, he hasn't competed in a while, and he's been used to a cushy life. He's been, you start to act different. You don't fight as hard when you live in a cushy life.
And that is the barrier that prevents most people from getting anywhere. The what if I lose? What if you lose? I just lost in front of the world. Got paid $20 million. I'm fine.
Right.
I just lost.
I ain't gonna lie, right.
And of course,
Facts.
he has to mention how much money he made to be like, you guys really think I care I lost? I mean, I just made a bag from this. So now apparently winning and his legacy isn't that important to him. And he also used to be all about self-accountability. Like, if you're not successful, if you're a broke loser, if you lose at something, you're just not trying hard enough. But now that he lost, it's like, well, you know, the universe wanted this. It wasn't under my control. He literally acts like the universe just wanted the other guy to win because he wouldn't be able to handle a loss as well as Tate.
Sure, Cope Kardashian. That is 10 out of 10 Cope. That is 100% Cope. The universe wanted me to lose because I'm going to accept the loss better than the other guy would. That's Cope. Just,
And
you know, just
there's
take the
nothing I
loss.
could have done. You know, it was all up to the universe.
Why did I get tired? I don't know. It doesn't make sense. The only thing that makes sense is that I was not supposed to win. Why was I not supposed to win? Maybe the win means more to Chase than it would have mean to me. Maybe Chase couldn't handle the loss. Maybe God decided, you know what, Chase has been through enough with mocking and things on the internet. Chase doesn't need the loss right now. Andrew can handle the loss better. Maybe God decided. Maybe if I won, we would have went out and celebrated that night, and Tristan would have smoked a bunch of cigars, and maybe he would have died 1 minute earlier. And maybe I get an extra minute with my brother because I lost. And if that's the case, then I'm glad I lost. You have to have faith in a higher power. There's a lesson in all of this. If God decides that for some reason he's going to instantly gas me when I was in perfect physical condition so that I lose, then I have to accept God's decision. And I'll take the punches in the face.
Yeah, it's a good way to look at it, like all the things he's saying, but it's still Cope, right? It's still Cope for losing, and by his definition, becoming now a loser. It's still Cope for that, though. He's right. Like, it's good to look at the silver lining and, you know, think, what if all of these things, you know, bad could have happened if I maybe won? You know, maybe this was just what was meant to be for me. But at the end of the day, it's still Cope, right?
Like a man. And I'm not going to bitch. I'm not going to complain. And I'm not going to cry. I'm going to take it. God decided on that day.
Yeah.
That's what has to happen to me, so I did it.
So he claims he was in perfect physical condition, but he got gassed after 2 rounds because God just felt bad for his opponent and was worried about Andrew's brother smoking too many cigars if he won. I mean, that's got to be the most insane Cope I've ever heard.
Yeah, that's
and apparently now it's not always up to people's effort. Like, there's nothing Tate could have done. This is just how the universe wanted things to play out. But imagine if he did win that fight. It'd be
Haters are like females. Nothing you can say, no matter how heinous, bothers them as much as ignoring them completely and living a happy life.
completely different story, and he'd be more arrogant than ever. You know, he'd be like, that's why I'm the best. That's why I'm the top G. I always win. And that was all me out there. But instead, now it's this victim mentality. He's like, I'm not complaining or making excuses, but then he says, if I didn't go to jail, I would have won. If this were a few years ago, I would have won. And he blames Romania for ruining his fighting career. And he acts like, man, I just can't catch a break. The universe hates me. But again, his whole persona is the exact opposite of that. You know, he claims to have it all in life, and he thinks everybody's jealous of him. And earlier this year, he said, it must suck to be a loser and watch life's winners win
Yeah, I
over.
think losing is more about a mentality than it is about taking a loss, right? I think if you can lose and then reevaluate yourself and become better at what you want to be good at, I think that losing is a good thing. I think it could be a valuable lesson. Maybe it takes you off of your high horse. Maybe it teaches you that you're human and that you do have flaws in whatever you're trying to be good at, and you need to patch those flaws up. I think that there are a lot of lessons in losing. So I think being a loser specifically is more of a mentality than it is actually losing. Everybody loses, right?
and over again. But now he just sounds so sad and pathetic, and there's like nothing he can do. He always just is taking L's, and he has to be a punching bag. And it sounds like he almost starts crying.
I'm not so old. I'm 39. But staying active till 39 is very different than coming out of a 10-year retirement at 39. If I was 23, would I beat Chase? Of course.
Maybe in kickboxing.
Would I have beat Chase 3 years ago? Before the Romanians threw me in a fucking jail cell and forced me to sit in my house for 3 years for no reason? Yeah. Am I bitter? Am I going to sit here and cry that the Romanian government, the most corrupt government in the fucking EU, stole my prime years, my last years I could fight at my best? Am I going to cry about it? No. You can't undo moves in life. Tristan said to me, what happened? I said, I got tired. I don't know why. You deserve that win. You've been through so much. You deserve that win. I said, I know. He goes, you trained so hard. You're in fantastic shape. I said, I know. I just got tired. If I didn't get tired, I would have beat him. He couldn't hit me in the first round. Couldn't touch me. I mean,
That's true, though. He was winning. I'm not going to lie. That was true. He was definitely winning the first 2 rounds. Third round, it started to get shaky, and from there, it was all downhill. I mean, and you could see the fatigue. It looked bad. Like, y'all might have to go watch it. I'm pretty sure it's on YouTube. You could probably find it somewhere for free now. He already hit me over the head for the $100, but y'all could probably watch it for free. And, yeah, it looked horrible. Like, it looked bad.
Watching you find the silver linings in all of the clouds. You deserve to have a sunny day. You're so good at finding a silver lining on a cloud. Every time something bad happens, you find a way to learn something or make it good. But I'm tired of you having to suffer all the time. Why can't you just ever have a nice day?
I understand he's trying to give a lesson in losing, but it's like, it's not that deep, brother. You just took a loss. He just turned this into a whole philosophical conversation. It's like, okay, just take the loss, bro. Win the $20 million and go have fun. If you take the $20 million and you go start to have fun, I go, dang, he just came up on the money, and now he's just having a blast. Now that you sitting here looking all depressed and giving this monologue, I'm starting to think you really feel like your legacy has been affected. And I mean, I genuinely couldn't care less. I couldn't.
Why can't you ever have a sunny day? We've had so many fucking clouds that we've got a lot of fucking silver. So I guess that's what it is. And maybe I'm just here to fucking suffer and get my ass kicked, and I'm going to do it all so I can give everyone else a fantastic life and give everyone else mindset advice. Nobody gives me mindset advice. Nobody helps me. Nobody helps me with my mindset and saves me when I'm depressed. No, maybe I'm just here to take a fucking beating like a piñata and give candy to everybody else. Maybe that's what God's plan was for me.
So he's going out sad. What a downfall. And now whenever he posts, he just gets clowned on in the comments. And of course, all the cope from the tater tots is hilarious.
Well, those are always the people that didn't like him anyway, all right? Those are the people who didn't like him, and they wanted more ammunition. And the reason why this is going to negatively affect them is because they just have this ammunition. These pictures are damning. When you sitting there on your knees hugging another man's legs, I understand it's a part of the sport. There are pictures in every sport. I'm sure in my rugby career, you could get some crazy pictures of me looking desperate, trying to clink, being tired, playing rugby. It's a very brutal sport, especially when you're tired. I'm sure you can really get some bad pictures, but when you're a person like Andrew Tate, those pictures are never going to go away. So unless you have the personality that's capable of dealing with that, it could be a bad move for you. But, you know, for me personally, again, I have to go back to I'm broke, and $20 million is enough for me to have a smile on my face.
Just too.
That's enough for me.
You know, they're saying he actually won and the other guy cheated. And to defend Tate, this one fan account is like, bro, Tate smokes cigars all day and is literally retired. So it sounds like he probably didn't train enough and maybe isn't disciplined enough to stop smoking and partying. And maybe it wasn't just the universe that held him back. Also, now fighters are questioning how legit his world championships were. So this was disastrous for Tate. I mean, just a few years ago, there's talk of him fighting Jake Paul or Logan Paul. But now there's probably no chance of that happening. And Tate would probably just get his ass kicked.
Well, that just comes with being cocky, right? If you're cocky or you're overly confident, you better win, because there are a lot of people that are going to cheer when you lose. That's just how it kind of goes. Let me know in the comments below if this video was a W or L. Give me the HBO special. That's Help Brother Out special. Hit the like and the subscribe button for more content. Till next time.
Yeah, man. With Tate, dude. He's doing all that like philosophical, like y'all not like whining and shit. You know, I'm like, where you could take the example of other fighters, like from UFC and all that stuff. You know what I mean? How they have that, you know, that man mode brotherly hug at the end and shit. You know, and they all bloody on some warrior type shit. You know what I mean? Which a lot of people love, you know, more so than two cats still bigging at the end because one didn't like how he lost and shit like that. So, you know, I just like, we all like that and those of us in our right mind. You know what I mean? Those of us who are, you know, true warriors of spirit, you know, we like that type of shit. You know, we don't like this type of shit where we see Andrew Tate, you know, bitching and all that shit, you know what I mean, about him losing or whatever, you know, but it's like, okay, he gives dude props or whatever to the degree, but he just goes on this long little monologue, whatever, about how he would have won, you know, if Romania didn't do this and that, you know, but no accountability shown, okay, of the cigars you was smoking and all that stuff, you know what I mean? Because me, if I would train and all name would make sense. Like I would stop smoking, train, boom, like real hard, like to get my cardio. Like, boom, he should work on cardio, carbs. You know, he should have done what was necessary, damn it, you know, just so he wouldn't be gassed out as he was. You know, and then dude said, Poor Man's Podcast said it was a snooze fest, you know, because he was like hugging him and all that. Yeah, he was doing a lot of hugging, you know, where I'm like, damn, you know, just, you know, WWE or, you know, some Greco-Roman wrestling or something like that going on. Like, what, man? Like, you're in the wrong sport for that, bud. I'm like, man, just, you know, and all that big talk he was talking, you know, and talking about no excuses, whatever, but he's still slick giving excuses, you know. It's like you can't accept your loss, you know, on some man shit and give like all these excuses and whines or whatever. Just take it, and just learn from it. Boom. You know, let that encourage you to get better, like with your cardio. You know, just in case if you like in real life got to fight somebody, you know, who has more gas than you because of all those damn cigars he been smoking. And who knows what kind of cigars him and his brother be smoking? Cause shit, I'm good, but I'm reporting this podcast on that one, boy. Hey, nigga, 20 million, shit. I ain't gonna be scared to fail. Damn it, let's believe that. Shit, so it's like, yeah, you know, since you know he lost, but then again he didn't lose because motherfucker, you came out with 20 damn million. Shut the fuck up. Real talk. Real talk. Man. But cats like what happened to this past year too as well, you know, to reflect upon 2025. Uh our guy our UK brother Tom Aspinall, who which, you know, now is like, hey, there's worries of if he's gonna return, you know, being able to fight, you know, because of that Sirigan eye poke. And I think it was like the second or third round. Yeah, man, that and he had to have like, and he has to have eye surgery too. Man, you know, and there were certain cats too hating or whatever because, you know, like, hey, I will continue fighting or whatever. Dude, no, like, if dude's having eye problems, I mean, that's sort of the median of high importance right there to take care of. Real talk. But you know, that's a strong excuse right there, damn it. You know, and an excuse to be pissed too. But that's a different kind of situation because that was like a no contest or whatever because, you know, motherfucker, like, you can't give a motherfucker a win because of an eye poke. That's like dishonor, like to the highest order. So, and it's just, you know, Andrew Tate, man. I mean, I don't know, dude. It's just it's annoying. So I'm like, okay, if you're gonna fight anybody, again, then your ass better consider strengthening your damn lungs, motherfucker. Like shit, as I would, hell. But again, like you said, you know, he won because he also came out with 20 million. But you know, so and we can learn lessons from this too, like okay, as to what to do, like when it comes to not making such excuses. You know, take examples from Andrew Tate, what not to do, and know that the man mode thing to do is the opposite of that, which is owning your shit. You know what I mean? So, and that's what you got to do. You know, that's man mode shit. You know, I can't do this. So complaining shit. Hell, I lost before. I got folded up quick. Damn, in the wrestling. In my time of wrestling in high school, by one guy from another school who was training ever since he was knee high to my like second year of wrestling. So it was like, damn, of course I was gonna lose that. But I wasn't afraid though, damn it, to go against his ass. But the second time though I faced him, boy, after I like trained my ass off, I lasted way longer, boy, and I damn near got his ass too. But hey, even though I lost that one too, you know what I mean? I still take it, man, with great pride though. So and great joy. You know what I mean? And hell, me and that dude's still cool to this day, man. So, you know what I mean? But haven't talked to the brother in a minute, so I hope he's all right. And yeah, so oh yeah, and I got this another one I want to show real quick before we go into geekdom. All right.
It's the day after Christmas and I'm just enjoying myself on Instagram. And you already know what I was looking for. Then I came across this video.
Yo, once I get my money right, I'm getting my girl 6 months to turn into my type or I'm gone. No bullshit, bro. Once I start getting some money, some real income, and she don't turn into my type, bro, even 3 months, bro, I'm done with her, man. As soon as I get some money, I'm switching up. No bullshit. I know I'm not the only one, man. I know some of y'all just with y'all shorty just because y'all have no money. Or not have no money, but like a decent amount. But if y'all have some real money, I know y'all leave y'all girls in an instant. No, I know I'm not the only one. No bullshit. I know I'm not the only one.
I mean, it sounds strange coming from a dude to say something like that. I mean, it sounds so superficial, but actually it does have some truth to it. There are a lot of dudes out there that will take what they can get when they're broke, but all of a sudden, once they start balling, things change. We saw that with Kevin Hart and his wife Tori, and once he got rid of her, the rest of the women he got were very light-skinned and very model type. Not to say that Tori Hart is not attractive, but it was just different. And the same can be said for Deontay Wilder. Now, he had 4 children with his ex-lovely wife, Jessica Scales Wilder, who they lived in Alabama, and they got married in 2009. By 2015, Deontay Wilder would be a world champion. And everything was on the up and up. He was still with his wife, who had been supporting him, since he had nothing. But then things started to change. By 2017, he would still be undefeated, but he would break up with his wife. And then right after the divorce from his wife, he would pop out with somebody new, Telly Swift. Chantel, aka Telly, met Deontay Wilder in 2015 when he was still married. He met her at the LAX airport. So basically Deontay was cheating on his wife with this lady when they were married, got divorced, got with her in 2018 and made it official. He was still undefeated and making a whole lot of money. But then there are some problems with all this. Number one, Telly Swift was a single mother. Deontay Wilder left his family to be with her. So why would a man do that? We're gonna get to that in a minute. But then secondarily, there were some real bad rumors about Telly Swift coming from the boxing industry. But we would hear those rumors from a hip hop legend.
Check this shit out. This weekend I go to this little fitness competition thing in Teaneck, right? So I popped in there, check everybody out, and while I'm there, Big Baby shows up. And Big Baby, big heavyweight fighter. And he seen me come out with Deontay Wilder, so he's like, yo, what I'm saying, I'm ready, I want to fight. And I'm like, okay, now people Deontay told me that they fought before and they gave him a mild concussion. So I'm like, yo, you sure you want this fight? And he's like, what? He's like, yeah, I sparred with him mad times before, yo, Keith, I'm gonna knock him out. I'm like, okay, so now when he tell me he gonna knock him out, I'm like, so what's really going on? I'm like, somebody lying to me, man. Damn.
So as you know, 50 Cent had, walked out Deontay Wilder a few songs, a few fights. And again, this is around 2017, 2018, around that particular time, something like that. All right. And so he comes across Jarrell Big Baby Miller. Now, according to 50 Cent, Deontay Wilder had been sparring with Big Baby Miller and basically been knocking the shit out of him, right?
Got him!
But then there's more.
And then he said the pretty Asian girl that Deontay be with, I'm like, his girl?
So it was alleged that Big Baby Miller had been messing with Taylor Swift all the time. And the reason why Deontay Wilder was so excited about dealing with her, because she was exotic. And, you know, being a country dude from Alabama, he had never really had access to women like this. And so basically he's wifing up a chick that everybody else see as a straight up booty clapper.
Damn!
Then in 2024, something strange happened.
Say, Taylor Swift just got a restraining order against him after he lost what they're saying might be his final fight.
Wait a minute, but why?
A better understanding of what was going on with Deontay Wilder as an athlete. And he's been losing, okay? He had 5 fights, his 5 last fights. Since 2020, he lost to Tyson Fury. And then the last time he lost to Tyson Fury, 2021, then we got Robert Helenius, and he won that, okay? And then he lost to Joseph Parker in this fight that just happened in June with Zhilei Zhang, where he got knocked out so bad, they're saying he should be completely done.
So let's go back and look at the history of Deontay Wilder's fights. Let's go back to December 1st, 2018, when he was still an undefeated fighter. He fought Tyson Fury in a fight that some folks thought he lost, but the fight was a draw because he did knock down Tyson Fury in the 9th and 12th rounds, which made it a draw. He would then fight Luis Ortiz in 2019, November 23rd. Then here's what happened right after that. February 22nd, 2020, he would suffer his first loss by technical knockout in round 7. The rematch, 2021, he would lose by KO round 11. Then October 15, 2022, Robert Helenius, he would win by KO in the first round. But then December 23rd, 2023, he lost Joseph Parker, a fight that folks thought he should have won. And then Zhilei Zhang, he lost by TKO in round 5. So basically he accumulated. He had dropped 4 out of his 5 fights since 2020. And so right after he lost, she filed for a restraining order. And what she said was basically he was physically violent towards her. He would be like waking up in the middle of the night crying. His mental health deteriorated alongside his career with the losses to Tyson Fury. She said at that point he struggled to get fights that could advance his career, and he was emotionally stable, she said. He would cry and yell often in our home. Now, she says since losing to Joseph Parker, Deontay had been emotionally abusive to her than any time in the past. She said she had been suffering in silence since Deontay became increasingly more aggressive and controlling. So fast forward. So it's a year and some change since Deontay Wilder got dumped by Taylor Swift, all right? Then he decides to finally talk about all of this on a podcast. And the clip that's going viral is shocking at its best.
I took the role of being your son father, not just a daddy, but a father.
Right.
I went in so hard, bro. I went in so hard to the point where I put them on my wheel. I had a meeting with my kids. I said, how y'all feel if I scoot y'all over? Scoot over a little slide and let somebody else get a little bit up. Yeah. And you know, my kids are amazing. They my best friends. And they was down with it. So I moved a little space over and added her son in on my motherfucking wing. You ain't even my son for real.
Right.
So Deontay Wilder admits that, number one, he fell in love with Taylor Swift. Then after falling in love with Taylor Swift, after he left his wife with 4 kids, what did he do? Well, he decided to adopt her child from another man. Not only did he do that, he said, listen, I'm gonna put this child on my will. He even said he went to his kids. Now imagine 4 kids that you have with your black wife, that wife who was there with you in Alabama when you had nothing. You had a meeting with your kids because you was cheating on this lady and left your wife for this lady. You asked your kids, because you're no longer in the house, could you put somebody else in the will. The same kid that you left their mother for.
Boy, you don't sit your stupid ass down. Who the you think you is?
But wait, it gets worse.
You know what I mean?
Wow, yeah, that has to take a toll.
I put her in my will as well too. Yeah. You was just my girlfriend. You ain't even my wife.
I hope that still ain't dead now.
Yeah, man. I
hope that still ain't.
One time the son said, "You ain't my daddy." Now that's one thing you don't say to a man that ain't your daddy. Don't remind him that you ain't his daddy. You ain't. You know what I'm saying? Don't remind me that.
Damn.
Not only did he put her son on the will, he actually added Taylor Swift onto the will, okay? And did this while the son told him something interesting. You ain't my daddy.
Got him!
Yes, this is what happened. And I can tell that, from this whole experience, that he's still hurt that she left him. And of course she left him and moved on with somebody else. But the whole point is like, look, man, here you are trying to go after your preference, and your preference don't even deal with you. And I think this is important, at least for a lot of black men, to kind of understand this. It's one thing when you start getting money that, these chicks will deal with you, they'll live in with you, and allow you to take care of their kids. The clapping to be so good that what you will do, some people will at least, is put, their kid on your will when they wasn't there doing nothing. And then when things start getting tough, they're out, right? And so you might feel bad about the whole situation, but there's something to be said about loyalty. Now listen, if you're gonna go head on and have some side chicks on the side and everything like that, that's fine. But you never leave your wife for somebody that's a clapper. You should never do that, all right? Especially the woman that's been there with you the whole entire time, and this woman show up when everything is good. And that's how a lot of brothers lose things. A lot of times we chase shiny things thinking that it's better when it's not. It just looks shiny, and it looks shiny because it's new. It's a new opportunity. Like, let me just say, I'm in this business for the last decade, and people always, tell me about different ideas, different things that I could do, different industries. And of course, it all seems great when it's just brand new, but it's not the faithful one. It's not the old faithful. It's not how you really get on. And a lot of times we got to have respect for the faithful, right? The people that's been there for us, the people that turned up for us every day. Because when you lose them, then you find out that everybody else is typically transactional. And that's what's going on with him. Like, bro, how dare you take a kid from a single mom that's not your wife, you didn't adopt them, and then put them on your will like as if they deserve that. I mean, think about this, Deontay. If she was rich, would she put your kids on her will? Hell nah, she wouldn't do that. All right? And I hate to say this, bruh, but your ass is getting exactly what you deserve. Woo! So guys, what do you think? It's your boy Shea Dude Jackson back at it again with another episode of The Celebrity Junk. I appreciate you for all that you do. Subscribe with the bell. We out.
Whoo-wee, yes, sir. Brother O'Shea Dude Jackson, shout out to you, bro. Shout out to O'Shea Dude Jackson. For this one, he nailed it. He definitely nailed it, damn it. And, 100% right. No problems for me. And, yeah, same words as me and a lot of other people have been saying, like, yeah, you're a fool. In God's eyes, you're a fool. You're getting what you exactly deserve. And maybe the mental issues you're having is caused by God, Deontay, because of your foolishness, your rebellion against him for doing the stupid shit you did by getting with a whole 304. A whole 304 / what Instagram single mother model. And you chose to adopt her kids and put her kids on your will after leaving your own? Dude, You gotta be one of the most ridiculous motherfuckers on earth. The I don't damn. I mean, there's Akash from last year. This dude Deontay Wilder. I mean, who else, y'all? Like, damn. Like, who fights for the simp crown? Who's fighting for the beta male crown? I mean, good lord, dude. Like, this is my first time actually giving any kind of heed to this story. So it's just, I was like, man, let me check this out with you guys. So, you know, I mean, because I know you guys are already hipped about Deontay Wilder. And I'm like, man. And yeah, in his episodes he was having, therefore in which those episodes that he was having that was afflicting upon her, upon his new chick, who's possibly a side chick. Yeah, that was all cause, you know, that was probably all spiritual. Because you think, you know, boy, you're going to go off, you know, in the sunset with your new chick who didn't put up with your shit nowhere near like your wife did, like your black wife did. And so therefore you, brother, I don't call you a brother, but you, my dude, are are going to be a statistic and a prime example for men, a whole basically a prime example of the kind of man of what not to be. So yeah, so therefore, and it'll be guys like him that would do such shit like this and think they can, because they know they can, you know, run their mouth or whatever and talk, but they're gonna get on platforms and all that, run their mouth, talk about relationships and all that stuff. And yeah, so when they actually should take 15,000 back seats, Deontay Wilder need to take 20,000 back seats before speaking on anything in regards to relationship, brother, none of that shit. Like, no man in their right mind would network with you after hearing all this unstable mental shit you have going on. And it's possible that, hey, that maybe if your ass wouldn't have left your wife, maybe you wouldn't have had all those losses. Maybe God would have blessed you with the strength necessary to take down those opponents, just as He gave strength to Israel to take down their enemies until their foolish ass rebelled, in which they did multiple times, and every time He saps the strength from them and allows their enemies to triumph over them temporarily, as God will allow to teach a lesson. And so who's to say that God didn't do it when it came to this? So yeah, so I got another video for you guys. And yeah, so now we're gonna dive into the geek verse. We're gonna dive into the geek verse on this one. So check it. There's some news and some videos I haven't seen, but this one from my brother for Neverworld. Shout out to him. Shout out to for Neverworld for this news. For this is some big news. But let's see if that's lined up first. So yeah, I was like, wow, okay. Here we go.
Okay, people, so it seems as though it's the end for a lot of major things in the world of anime. And while it sucks to hear, it sucks to feel it, ultimately, all good things must come to an end. Because while we enjoy these series, while we enjoy these anime, while we enjoy these franchises, eventually at some given point, even the most longest runners, even the most popular, even the most successful, eventually have to reach their inevitable conclusion. And in this episode of Forever News, well, there's quite a few things that are coming to their conclusion or have come to their finale, and we're going to talk about it. And I don't want to waste any more of your time, so without further ado, let's jump into another exciting episode of Forever News, the only news source that provides anything and everything anime and manga related, and we don't bore you. We get into it. Let's do it.
Now I'm starting to see his old timing. Catch me whenever you want, I'm shining. Slip the truth, see, I don't know the lying. When I circle over here, know the night.
And of course, before we continue, if you would hit that subscribe button and that bell, I'd greatly appreciate it. You get notified on anything and everything in the world of anime and manga, and I'll be able to notify you on what's happening in this glorious world. So hit them buttons. So first story that we are going to be talking about is something that inevitably had to come about, right? Because at the end of the day, as I started this video off saying, every good thing must come to an end, including the series that we love, because as of the recording of this video, I hate to say it, but it is the truth. The My Hero Academia TV anime series has indeed come to a conclusion, not only with the Japanese version, but also with the English dub. The final episode has arrived. So for those that haven't checked it out yet, highly recommend getting into it ASAP and, marathoning that, especially the final season, because, well, it's the end. But despite the fact that we've reached the end of the My Hero Academia TV anime series, most people may know, if you follow me, if you don't, then you should follow me, that it was seemingly announced, or at the very least teased, that we would be getting a little bit more for the TV anime of My Hero Academia, in the form of, well, in case you don't know, there was a couple of chapters that were never adapted for the TV anime and its finale, both of which that are very significant and very important to the main character and to the story as a whole, because how the TV anime ends, it basically wraps up what was done and serialized in Weekly Shonen Jump. However, when the final volume of My Hero came out, and even after that, there was a couple of chapters that came out that added extra and even more so resolved some serious and major plot lines to My Hero Academia that fans have been thirsting to know. My Hero Academia is very much so heavy on certain aspects of the series, and these things wrap things up, but in the TV anime, we didn't get it. However, coming out of Jump Festa 2026, as if you haven't checked out the last episode of Forever News, I said I will be covering more stuff that happened in Jump Festa 2026. We got major good news that while yes, the TV anime of My Hero Academia is over, there is one more thing that is coming. Well, actually more than that, but the big thing that most people want to know is My Hero Academia special episode, quote, more, is now in production. It is a special episode adapting chapter 431 of the manga. And even more special for me personally is that it is scheduled for May 2nd. Shout out to my daughter's birthday. May 2nd, 2026, they are going to be adapting that final chapter of My Hero, which I'm gonna just keep it all the way real because there's the news on that aspect, but here's my opinion on this thing. The powers that be that are in charge, with all due respect, have for whatever reason prolonged this thing as much as they possibly could, because when it very first went down, the ending of My Hero, when it was serialized in Weekly Shonen Jump, the initial final chapter, chapter 430, a lot of people were left a little bit unsatisfied with certain aspects of the story, and they were like, damn, that's the ending. And there was quite a bit of a backlash, which again, that's par for the course with anime and manga fans of being upset about something. But there was a silver lining, so to speak, in the form of that it was announced that at the end of that year, we would be getting one more bonus chapter in the final volume of My Hero Academia, volume 42. And a lot of people were like, yo, this is it, let's freaking go. It was real kind of sucky feeling, so to speak, because it's like, bruh, the manga's over in Weekly Shonen Jump. Why are we doing this? Why wasn't this the final chapter? chapter? Like, why wasn't this just put in Weekly Shonen Jump? Which from a marketing standpoint, and if I am a part of one of the higher ups, I'm looking at it as, oh, this is going to entice people 10 times more to pick up that final volume. Maybe they thought, I read it in Shonen Jump, I don't need it, or I don't want to collect. Oh, the only way to get this final chapter is to buy the volume? Yeah, let me go do that. Let me order it on my phone. Let me buy the digital. Let me buy the physical. Whatever the case may be, that's probably what the mindset behind that thing was. Because I wouldn't be surprised if this was initially going to be in Weekly Shonen Jump. Horikoshi probably had this thing penned out like, yo, this is what I want. Because I gotta imagine that being his baby, My Hero Academia, he probably wanted certain aspects for Deku to actually happen and didn't want to just leave certain things as is. Like, don't get me wrong, the ending of 430 is supposed to have something major for Deku. I'm trying to be spoiler free for people, which was great and fantastic, but there was still one more aspect that was supposed to, or at the very least people wanted to be resolved, and people waited and waited and waited and then finally got that chapter, but it didn't even come over here to the West. Like, you had to actually check out what was going on in Japan, so to speak, to even understand, hey, there was an extra piece of the story that resolved something major for the main character, which honestly I just thought was like, what the heck? But then you hear that the anime is coming, and then a lot of people were hoping and waiting and praying like, oh, the anime is gonna give this, right? You know what I'm saying? Not to mention for people that didn't want to check out the scanlations and wanted to wait for the official version, since it never actually hit officially in the West digital Shonen Jump, people were like, okay, when the volume comes out, we'll have the true ending of My Hero Academia. And the volume took like ages to come out over here in the West. I think it actually released, you know, the manga version, the English manga version, like a few months back or something. But a lot of fans were very much so excited for that. And then it's like, okay, the anime's gotta do it. Yo, we're finally gonna get the true ending in the anime form. And then bam, they're like, no. Now you're gonna wait a bit more for the full-on experience of what happens at the end of My Hero Academia. But I guess it also kind of makes sense and mirrors the actual waiting that Deku and crew had to wait for, you know, the whole thing to happen for Deku to begin with. But I'm still here kind of like, bruh, that is a little bit wild of how much they made fans wait for the actual true ending. And let's not forget the fact that there's still no confirmation on whether or not the extra chapter, which is a very crucial and important piece of the story as well, that wasn't in the My Hero Academia official manga, it was in like one of the spin-offs, but it covers a major aspect of an accomplishment that Deku achieved that people wanted to really know badly. And there's no confirmation on whether or not that'll be animated, but we do know at the very least we're going to be getting 431. It's going to be adapted a little bit longer out, but damn, I just gotta say, damn, the wait has been excruciating to say the least. Like, come on, dog, come on. And I get it, because like at the end of the day, it would be hypocritical to say like this is the only series that's ever done that, because look at Naruto. Shippuden took like 800 million years to get to the ending. Oh my gosh, now I think about it, Naruto never really gave the true chapter 700, although to be fair, in replacement of that, they gave you a whole spin-off series, so yeah. And not to mention that Bleach had to wait like 10 years for its final season, so I guess this is just a reoccurring thing. Let's see what happens when it's time for the One Piece anime conclusion, if they're actually gonna go that route as well and be like, oh, you thought you was getting the One Piece finale? Yeah, you're gonna have to buy like 20 extra volumes, and each volume is gonna have one page of the final chapter. But yeah, I just had to get that off my chest. I've been holding that in actually for like probably a year now at this point, of my frustrations with, you know, I guess the higher ups of Shueisha and Weekly Shonen Jump and stuff. Like, it's just been really unfair to the fans. It's been really unfair to the people that wanted to experience this more than anything. Like, bruh, what the heck? But I guess at the same time, the phrase does exist for a reason, that good things come to those who are patient, and maybe the experience would have not been that great, or maybe it would have just been a letdown if we would have gotten it a lot sooner for whatever reason. Sometimes you just gotta trust the process, so there's that aspect too. You know me, it wouldn't be me if I didn't balance things out with like, yeah, I kind of went off for the last, I don't know, 10 minutes, but here's a little silver lining of, well, good things come. Yeah, that's me. And I guess some more good news, because I'm sure some people are like, okay, well, how is this thing going to be released? This May 2nd release for this episode, is it going to be like a Japanese only thing? Are the English dub people gonna have to wait? Like, how is this going to work? Well, it seems as though this one is going to be at the very least on time, so to speak, because My Hero Academia anime, the special episode More, adapting chapter 431 of the manga, premieres worldwide on Crunchyroll on May 2nd, 2026. So it's going to be a global release simultaneously. Everyone gets it all at once. No more waiting. No more Japan getting special treatment. None of that stuff. Everybody is going to be feeling good and experiencing what manga readers have experienced for quite some time. And I guess to add even more, just a little bit more of a spice from the announcements from Jump Festa 2026 for fans of this franchise as a whole, because there was a 10th anniversary key visual that was revealed for My Hero Academia, and the series apparently will be receiving multiple Ultra projects during 2026, which I'm sure most fans are hoping for the movie announcement. And I'm sure, like, you know, the live action thing is still in the works. We've gotten word and it sounds very promising and whatnot. But as far as getting like pro hero movie of Deku and crew after the events of the ending, like, I'm sure fans really want that to be in the cards as well, which Shonen Jump, Shueisha, the powers that be, higher ups, that prints money. That will print a lot of money, make the experience worth the while, make a great movie, and that'll print money. But yeah, even though the series is done, there's still a little bit more in the form of this OVA special that's coming in May, as well as all these Ultra projects, and hopefully that other chapter gets adapted, because again, that is a very, 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 very big deal and a big milestone for Deku when it does happen, but we will see. Moving forward, before we actually get into some of the stories from this segment of, yes, we're going to be talking about One Piece, I did want to acknowledge and give a thank you, so to speak, to Taz Skyler for featuring me in one of his latest videos on his YouTube channel of him becoming Sanji. Essentially, to give you guys a brief backstory, way back when it was very first announced that the One Piece Netflix live action was incoming, I reacted to the casting that was announced for, like, you know, who's going to be the actors. And initially, when I just saw, like, you know, the profile picture of the actors, I was just kind of like a bit critical. I think I said homie like looked like Eminem or something like that, which that's not necessarily a bad critique or anything like that, but in terms of could he play the character of Sanji, which coincidentally Sanji and I share the same birthday. So with this video, Taz Skyler actually showed his transformation, how he went from essentially being casted as Sanji and wondering, could I actually do this, to working hard, going above and beyond measures. Like, you know, his story was actually really inspiring, to becoming Sanji himself for the One Piece live action Netflix series. So massive props to dude for being able to pull it off. And again, thanks for featuring me in the video. I think that thing like went viral or something. Like, it's at like 500,000 views already, like crazy stuff. But with that being said, going back to where we started at the beginning of this whole episode of Forever News, good things must come to an end. And as I've been on this journey, I've seen this kind of moment coming even more and more. And what I'm referring to is the fact that, well, if you've been an anime fan for even a bit of time, you have noticed that for the most part, the anime that are around each and every week have slowly but surely dissipated. Like, there's seasonal stuff all the time, and you're always gonna have something each and every week regardless, because yeah, anime is all over the place. But as far as like that one linear anime story that is always coming each and every week, well, that has slowly but surely faded out to the point where we're at, because we just got word that as of December 28th, that was the final episode of One Piece. Kind of funnily, you could call it season 1. I know you're probably like, yo, there's like what, 1,200 episodes? What do you mean season 1? Because essentially the whole announcement that we got a while back that One Piece was no longer going to be a weekly anime has finally arrived. As of December 28th, One Piece anime is no longer airing weekly. It is actually going on a break, and when it returns, it will return as a seasonal anime, probably giving, I want to say, 24 to 26 episodes a year. But yeah, this marks the end of like a massive legacy of ongoing weekly like series. Like, don't get me wrong, there's still a few that are ongoing, and massive props to them, and I think that that's just awesome that they're still, you know, carrying and waving the flag like the fight ain't over yet. Like Detective Conan, like that's still a big one, and that's still going weekly, and it's a really good show, even if it's episodic. Yeah, like, you know, some people, they're not a fan of episodic stuff, but yeah, that's a really good one. But again, if you've been following anime for a while now, you've seen, like, whether it be from the Boruto anime coming to a close, Black Clover anime coming to a close, like, you've seen that the ongoing weekly stuff has kind of come to an end, because I want to say maybe like I don't want to say overcrowding, so to speak, but there's a lot of popular anime now, opposed to back in the day where there was like a handful of popular anime that really dominated everything, and then once in a blue you just get something that kind of surprises everybody with popularity. There's a lot of popular anime, and every season these seasonal anime are dominating people's time. So before, where people would just be like, I'm only watching my Naruto, One Piece, and Bleach each and every week, I don't care about anything else. Now they're like, yo, but this season there's this show, and there's this show, and there's this show. So again, you probably have a new episode of your favorite anime each and every day, I would say, for that matter, if you're really into anime. Like, you could probably get a brand new episode each and every day if you wanted it. But as far as One Piece goes, yeah, it's time, because One Piece is officially ending its 26-year run as a year-round anime. On December 28th, 2025, the anime officially transitions to seasonal format and will return in April 2026. So for those that were really enjoying and appreciating getting those weekly releases of episodes, I'm sorry to tell you, but yeah, a lot of time and effort goes into making those things. It's not as simple as some people may think. Like, there is a lot of blood, sweat, and tears that happens to make those weekly things go down. But yeah, it'll be back in April, so it's not too big of a deal. And at the same time, the One Piece series as a whole, because whether it be due to stuff with Oda and so many things going on, it's kind of been cutting down anyway, right? Like, the One Piece manga hasn't released 52 chapters in a 52-week year in years. Like, it drops about, what, 30 chapters or so in a year, and the anime adapts accordingly and takes breaks as well, so it's not too big of a deal. And at the same time, this will allow for people to do other stuff with their time, and also make it that when One Piece does come back, it's a really, really big event, which, to be honest with you, for a fan of it, every week if you're getting an episode of something, it is a big event. But what they say, absence makes the heart fonder. So in this scenario, as far as those One Piece weekly episodes and whatnot, I guess it'll make you fonder to wait for it. But there's also other news in the world of One Piece, because I don't want to just bring you guys like some sad news and then like, hey guys, later, because according to this, One Piece by Eiichiro Oda has apparently a new anime film in production. However, Oda is not allowed to mention anything and ask fans for patience because they'll be really interested in the story, according to his message at Jump Festa 2026. So there's a new One Piece film on the way, which it makes even more sense when you compound that with everything that's going on in the world of One Piece. You got the live action on the way, you got the One Piece anime remake on the way, you got the TV anime of One Piece that comes out in April, you got a film on the way, you got manga projects. Like, there's only so much One Piece that even the most diehard fan can take in. So yeah, putting the TV anime on a seasonal schedule with everything else that's happening, that makes sense. And with a movie coming in, is like, One Piece fans are gonna be more than good. They're gonna be, someone get Tony the Tiger up in this motherfucker and have him scream out great. But yeah, shout outs to everything in the world of One Piece. Shout outs to Oda, and once again, Taz Skyler, appreciate you for featuring me in that episode. Very inspiring stuff, that even when you think you can't do something, if the opportunity arises, it could push you beyond measure to achieve your goals. Moving forward, oh boy, yes, I'm going to talk about this, even though I'm going to tread lightly because I don't want to be involved in the bullshit. Because in case you don't know, One Punch Man, yeah, the latest season, most people hate it. Personally, for me, it's one of those things where I don't really care what the internet has to say. I love One Punch Man. I loved season 1. Season 2 was badass, and season 3, while some of the things that I've seen wasn't the greatest in the world, a marathon of it is indeed in the works, and ultimately I'm gonna be the judge of it for myself. But yeah, something that, funny enough, in private conversations, I actually knew was going to happen. Shout out to my homie Lord Agent M. We have some great anime conversations, and yeah, he could vouch that I was the one that called this, because it initially started with Netflix listing One Punch Man season 3 as part 1, and well, most people that were very angry with One Punch Man lost their freaking mind and were screaming and very upset, because that means that there's going to be a part 2 to this season of One Punch Man, and the series will continue at JC Staff, which, with all due respect, and I respect everyone's opinions, but respect my opinion to say, for all the people that were like, harassing the staff and all that, fuck those people. Shout outs to JC Staff to the utmost, because they've had to put up with a ridiculous amount of pressure this season of One Punch Man, producing to the best of their capability with an extremely tight schedule. Like, you couldn't imagine how tight these deadlines were for this staff, and they still delivered the best of their capability within the time constraints that they had. So give them some respect, regardless of what. You want to trash anything, get mad at the schedule that was brought forth for these people from the higher ups, whoever it may be, whether it's Shueisha, the chairman committee, whoever it is, get mad at those people, but leave JC Staff out of it, because they did their absolute best, and that's all you can ask from anybody. And some of the stuff that I saw, like a few different episodes, looked actually pretty good. So while maybe there was some stuff that wasn't the greatest in the world, there was also some stuff that I've seen with my own eyes that looked fantastic. So back off of JC Staff, quit being mean to them, quit talking shit shit. And also something very good about this thing, because while some fans were, oh my god, you know, like, oh, I'm gonna... Apparently, according to leaks, and I think it was actually already kind of confirmed from certain sources, One Punch Man Season 3 Part 2 will not air next year and is instead planned for sometime in 2027. The delay is reportedly meant to give the animators enough time to properly work on the most anticipated section of the series, Saitama versus Garo's fight. For many fans, it's brought a lot of hope as it increases the chances of seeing the battle animated with the quality and care it truly deserves. So for all those that were upset when they heard there's going to be more One Punch Man anime that you do not have to watch if you don't want to, like, let me repeat that again, you don't have to watch it. You don't got to experience it. You can turn off your TV. You could grab the remote and turn that shit off. You could turn your laptop. You could throw your phone. Like, you don't got to watch it. But considering that there's going to be ample amount of time for this next section, this next portion of it, there's a good chance that, especially like, yo, we're just now entering 2026. By 2027, that should be a decent amount of time to get a good season going. Although, you know, people are already putting reservations to complain and bitch before the season even starts of like, anytime I see one thing that I don't like, I'm gonna rage. Like, yeah, we know what time it is. We know what's up. But shout outs to JC staff, and I am going to continue to enjoy mine, and I'm imagining that 2027 One Punch Man Season 3 Part 2 is gonna be great. And if it ain't, oh well, I'm still gonna enjoy. Same way like a series like Berserk 2016, like I enjoyed that despite the fact that the CGI wasn't the greatest in the world, because the story is pretty awesome. And I know some people are gonna say, but they changed some stuff from the One Punch Man story. The beats for the most part are still gonna be the same. It's not like they turned Garo into some fucking one-legged dwarf named Greg, all right? Like, chill out. Oh my gosh, if they do that, I'm going to be like, yeah. But anywho, yeah, One Punch Man, there you go. Jujutsu Kaisen fans, for starters, I want to focus more on talking about Jujutsu Kaisen, even though the manga ended, but I'm excited about this upcoming season of the anime. And in general, there's the spin-off manga that's been going on for a little bit now, even though I know it's not going to be, you know, a long runner or whatnot, and I'm just in that mood for it. So yeah, because Jump Festa 2026 brought a couple of different things. It brought a really dope trailer for the upcoming season of Jujutsu Kaisen. It looked fantastic. We're going to get more Maki. We're going to get more Yuta. We're going to get more of a lot of the greatness of the Culling game. And the series starts broadcast like right around the corner, January 8th, 2026. So it's not that far off. And yeah, the trailer just looked fantastic and amazing. And honestly, the more I talk about Jump Festa 2026, this was probably the best festa of I don't even know how many years. Like from everything, if you followed, you know, the last episode of Funeva News where I talked about Black Clover's new trailer and release date, Bleach new trailer release date, Hitman Reborn remake, like there's been so many great things about this Jump Festa 26, including this, because yeah, the season looks like it's gonna be so good. And if you doubt the success of Jujutsu Kaisen, maybe you're a newcomer, or maybe you just don't know, that's okay. You know, people step into new worlds every day, you feel me? Because Jujutsu Kaisen is going to be on the cover of the Jump Giga 2026 Winter Magazine and Saikyo Jump Magazine as well. And the manga, if you don't know how successful it is, has reached 150 million copies in circulation worldwide for the entire series. If you don't know, that makes it like one of the highest selling manga of all time. I think it's like either top 10, top 5 highest selling manga ever. So yeah, Jujutsu Kaisen is a really, really big deal. And while the manga, the original mangas come to a close, there is a spin-off series happening right now, Modulo, I believe it is. Almost made me think of Modelos. No. And yeah, Jujutsu Kaisen is a smash hit and the season looks great. And yeah, the hype hasn't died down at all, even though the original manga's over. And lastly, we got word from Gege Akutami, the creator of Jujutsu Kaisen, from Jump Festa 2026, and they said this: Jujutsu Kaisen Modulo began with the short-sighted idea of, if I'm doing a spin-off, wouldn't sorcerers versus aliens be interesting? So then what are those aliens like? If I set the currently serialized content as the peak, what kind of story should we build within the limited length of a short serialization? Jujutsu Kaisen Modulo was born from being allowed to use time that would be normally spent on drawing and through trial and error while confronting modern issues. The anime is finally starting. Director Gosho Izono's direction, production, and sheer ability to ensure top-tier quality are just incredible. Of course, it's not just the director, but the talent and taste of the entire staff across every single stage of the production are incredible, starting with Iwasaki Sensei. Jujutsu Kaisen is supported by many people, and you, the readers, are also one of them. I will continue to move forward without ever forgetting my gratitude or my original intentions. Thank you, as always. So yeah, it seems like Gege Akutami, even though they, you know, went for a while, they left the manga scene, they're in great spirits, so good to hear it. But that's all I have for this one. I'm Tim. As always, people, have an awesome day. Peace in, and yeah, Happy New Year if you're in 2026 while you're watching this. Peace in.
When we first met, I was kind of lost trying to figure out which way to go, took a different route.
Well, shout out to my guy from Neverworld. Shout out to you, bro. Thank you, man, for the great news. Hey, man, anything One Piece they're coming out with, I'm for. Bring it. One Piece, One Punch Man. And even though there's complaints and all that stuff, and I'm feeling on that too, man. It's just I don't know what it is like over the years or whatever, or has it always been that way in the world of nerds and geeks. You know what I mean? Where you have these ridiculous ass critics, that will point out like some kind of like minute small detail or something and then complain about it and trash something that may very well be a masterpiece. you know, Masterpieces have their own little hiccups here and there, that's not so favorable to you or to us, but hey, we still consider a masterpiece all around. But there's some of those people that don't. Those ridiculous critics, the ones like he said that are just ridiculous and annoying. And I think I come to find those kind of nerds, I'll say, are the ones who are your smart aleck bastards for no reason because they are upset because of certain areas in their life is not to their liking. So they find ways to take it out on others by being all quick, snappy, and just trying to purposely find moments to slip in with some jackass, smart ass, comments. I can't stand those kind of geeks. I can't. They're like impossible to talk to have a fun conversation with the same thing, that you guys have the interest in, which is anime. But we gotta understand, hey, even though we may share something of interest, but we gotta understand that there's a certain percentage of people that will like the same thing you like, but are just horrible human beings. But aside from that, man, dude, yeah, I'm geeked. Shit, My Hero Academia, anything, damn it, with that, come with it. I think I purposely hold back from watching the last 2 episodes, in which I'm gonna get to that as well. And I'm not tripping, like I said before. I'm not tripping with this whole thing they're trying to shift to. Though there's some seasons, some franchises that are still going every week. You know what I mean? They're still dishing out anime, episodes every week. But they are trying to transition to that where they give you a load of them, like 24 every 5 months or whatever. Just so the writers and the creators can have their break. I understand that. I'm fine with that. Like I said, I was upset a little bit at first, but I'm like, oh, hell no. Then I had to realize, well, I would like to have time to watch some other stuff, to savor that, for whenever it comes back. I would like to, take my time and check out some other badass shows, because you can't be just fixated on one thing and then once, shows come out, you run the chance and the risk of missing out on something that's totally great and awesome. So that's how I look at it. I think about it the same as like when it comes to playing like one game, for most of the damn year. For when you could just complete the game, boom, till it's 100% completion or close to it, to where you can fully say and feel satisfied enough to where you don't feel like you're cheating yourself, because the purpose of you buying a game is for you to complete it, unless it's one of those games where it's just like multiplayer, where it's just, based off of scores, score differences. But But other than that, you don't know if you're missing out, man, on some badass content by just sticking to just one. So with that, I don't mind because, yeah, like I said, it'll give me time to check out, other content because, like you said, there's other massive amounts of this awesome anime. And thank God, Kingdom is one of those that's going on like every week. So, yeah. And there was another, too. Oh, yeah. Damn it. I don't know, brother from Neverworld, if you mentioned it or if anybody else brought it up before, but I've seen little clips, in my algorithm of this one anime that's a spin-off of the awesome masterpiece anime of Seven Deadly Sins. I think it was like a Knight's Tale, whatever the hell. Yeah, they're supposed to be like dealing with their kids and shit like that. So yeah, I'm definitely going to be checking that out. Escanor was like had a daughter or whatever. Like, oh hell no. I'm like, let me check this out. So yeah, seeing my boy Meliodas and his kid, see how his kid fare when it comes to battle. There's other projects. Yeah, man. One Punch Man, I think, yeah, I'm at the beginning of the 3rd season. Checking that out. And right now I'm watching Stranger Things. Like I said, I'm in the 3rd season. First episode of that. And man, that was just wild too. But yeah. But you mentioned Detective Conan. All right, I'm like, that's enough. Even though it's supposed to be a long anime, I might be able to fit that in. It said, it's like dinner is long running as a One Piece. Well, which is fine. I still gotta watch all of the live adaptation of the One Piece TV show. To see how they deal with that. And I'm like, so far, I don't really have no problems with it, but it's just the Japanese dub, man, is just better, man. The Japanese dub is just better. Even on my show Kingdom, I'm like, oh man, I just feel more masculinity coming from the Japanese dub. But yeah, can't wait for all these projects to come out. Keep that in mind and check my boy out. Subscribe to Forever World, and you'll get all the updated news you need in regards to anime. All right, so yeah, let's go to the next one. Also, hit the Cash App, which should be there in the chat and in the description. All right, here we go.
Only the future will prove which one of us is right.
Hello and welcome to another marvelous video. I'm your host, Will. And if you're anything like me, true believer, you grew up watching the 1992 cartoon show, The X-Men. In today's video, we're gonna dive deep into that show and dig up some dark and interesting facts about it. So sit back, put on the tights, and pull out the claws, bub. Let's get to it.
Created the X-Men. And what I created.
The 1992 animated X-Men series became one of the most popular Sunday morning cartoon shows in its prime. For those of you who remember it with fondness, I'm sure that once you grew up, you somehow got the feeling that not a lot of what was portrayed in the show was really targeted towards kids. Granted, most of us were not mature enough to understand it beyond the surface level back then, but after having rewatched the series as an adult, I like the powerful metaphors the showrunners had used back then to explore real-world discrimination and ideological clashes. Neither side was portrayed as inherently evil, and the central message was quite clear. Prejudice and power are often the only causes for moral and social corruption. I think this is one of the most socially conscious shows ever created, and today I want to point out a few things that will prove exactly why I feel this way. Real prejudice and racism. What sets the X-Men show apart from other cartoon series of the time is how they address the prejudice just right. It feels deeply familiar in a very uncomfortable manner, because that is exactly what the intention was. Mutants are hated by humans, maybe in a greater capacity than even they have hated humans. This is a fact that makes up the very backbone of the X-Men comics and adaptations. One of the first instances of this is seen in Night of the Sentinels, which gives a harrowing portrayal of how Jubilee is hunted down and detained for just being different. The Sentinels do not really go around asking questions to confirm if she is indeed a threat. They are programmed to profile and capture, which mirrors the real-world racial profiling and police brutality that we have been seeing so much of. Systematic racism is explored in detail in Days of Future Past, and I don't have to break down how policies driven by hate and fear have had disastrous consequences in human history. In fact, I am going to talk about how this particular episode also gave us probably the darkest portrayal of hate in the series. Genocide and concentration camps. X-Men the animated series completely abandoned the safety of metaphor and dove into historical horrors in Days of Future Past. Genocide is implied quietly in the background, as we are shown what the aftermath looks like when mutants have been virtually erased. Sentinels function like death squads, hunting relentlessly. There is no law, no due process, no measure of protection for mutants. They are captured, imprisoned, and exterminated. The chilling depiction of concentration camps, where these people are heavily guarded and stripped of their freedom and identities, is a grim remembrance of the very real Holocaust that now finds a place in every history book in the real world. Sentinels are not shown as rogue villains, but rather as state-approved tools for enacting systematic violence. I also realize that, despite what most of us think, genocide never starts directly with mass murder. It has always been a result of fear, which creates stricter legislation, then surveillance, and finally, imprisonment. It made me wonder how bold it was to actually depict this in a children's show, because it raises the fundamental question of how far people can go to justify prejudice. Death that actually sticks. Death is often treated as a disposable commodity in most superhero tropes, and I know how fans have repeatedly highlighted that such a portrayal is extremely unrealistic. In this show, however, Morph's death is not treated as something that is forgotten by the next episode, or even treated as a way to further the plot. The loss felt from his death is openly shown, with Wolverine's guilt reflecting some kind of PTSD. The X-Men grieve without a lesson at the end of it that somehow justifies and gives closure for the unfortunate incident. Every character feels the consequences in some form, and even Professor X has trouble with confronting the cost that comes with putting young mutants at risk in this manner. The trauma sticks with the team and the audience, and even bleeds into the later episodes. Maybe as children, we did not understand the gravity of something like this, but I'm glad that the depiction of death in this case was not mellowed needlessly. War, terrorism, and revolution. The fights in this show are not your usual hero versus villain brawls with poetic justice delivered at the end. They are messy and morally compromised struggles, where both sides believe they are acting out of sheer necessity. The constant blurring of the lines between freedom fighter and terrorist is something we have seen a lot in the real world, which is also depicted here. At every point in history, revolutionaries have always been labeled as terrorists when the regime they were against ended up winning. Similarly, people who engaged in very real acts of terrorism often believe they are serving a bigger purpose and are fighting for freedom. There is only one thing that drives both arguments: propaganda. And in a scenario like this, people caught in between do not know whom to support due to the uncomfortable ambiguity of the intentions of both sides. Magneto is a very clear example in this case. As a Holocaust survivor, war is an inevitability for him, not a choice. He is not insane. He is simply radicalized. He believes he is heralding a revolution that will ensure the safety and survival of his kind, but that must come at the cost of humans. And while the show never excuses his methods, it also does not dismiss the reasoning behind his actions. The dilemma that I just talked about regarding terrorism is very clearly depicted throughout the show. When humans attack mutants, it is simply an act of defense. But if mutants fight back, it is labeled as terrorism. Ultimately, violence is justified depending on who holds power. In this cycle, where revolution creates extremism, while compliance leads to oppression, war is nothing heroic. It is simply a tragedy with no clear winner. Religious and cult brainwashing. When we think about religious extremism and cults, the first things that come to our minds are rituals and hooded figures, and that is a very safe way to characterize them, because in real life, cult brainwashing is far more subtle and much more dangerous. Leaders who use their charisma and popularity, and institutions with authority figures are often the ones engaging in real brainwashing. No one second guesses them, and that is exactly how propaganda succeeds. Cult dynamics are reflected in Magneto's followers, as his speeches indoctrinate young mutants to hate humans instinctively. The Sentinels reflect institutional brainwashing, where humans are the ones conditioned to hate and fear mutants. No one is born with extreme views. It is just that the mind can be fragile enough to believe in something when there is enough persuasion. I feel that this is a very balanced take on how cults do not inherently start with madness. That part comes much later, because what triggers these groups is always a sense of manufactured fear, along with the promise of belonging. Body horror and experiments. Science has given us the whole world, but none of us is alien to the unethical use of science when it's used as a weapon for domination. Body horror and illegal experimentation are not things children will understand in a show like this, and I didn't either. I simply thought of it as a storyline, but now I understand the actual implications. Yes, Wolverine got these cool powers and claws and is able to be a complete badass because of the experiment done on him. But is that really all there is to it? The fact that his memories were tampered with and he was created to be a weapon without his explicit consent is a kind of horror we cannot even comprehend. His loss of bodily autonomy, which leaves him with fractured memories and abilities he cannot get rid of even if he wants to, is similar to instances of real-world human experimentation justified in the name of progress. Mr. Sinister embodies another aspect of this theme, as his objective deals with genetic superiority. The real-world example of this is how genetic mutation can be misused as a method to cherry-pick desirable qualities in children, raising a very important ethical debate. Mental illness and mind control. I think that, in addition to body horror and physical trauma, this show also explores various aspects of mental health using tools like mind control and psychic collapse. It's a cruel reminder that the mind is another battlefield that can be brutalized just as much. Speaking of mind control, Professor X is our best example. His ability grants him a unique kind of power that is almost unmatched, to the point where many fans agree that if he were not opposed to Magneto, the humans would not have stood a chance. However, he is never considered all-powerful. The very ability that sets him apart is also what makes him vulnerable, because we always see the positive side of his telepathy skills, never the toll that it takes on him. Even if he is a mutant, even if his endurance is far more than an ordinary human, can you really set aside the mental overload that he experiences from using his powers? I would really like a more balanced portrayal of how Professor X struggles with his ability, instead of just seeing him as this insanely powerful mutant who could turn the world around if he wished to. I also appreciate how Jean Grey's transformation into the Phoenix is handled in this show, because it's a very haunting reminder of mental collapse. Even as a kid, I could feel the overwhelming emotional burden that led to this, and as an adult, I fully understand why it happened. She becomes a very tragic representation of dissociation and loss of identity, and it's sadly something we see in real life as well, just without the superpower part. People who struggle with their mental health often end up in similar situations when they cannot access the help they need. Sexism, abuse, and toxic relationships. Some plotlines in X-Men the Animated Series are really not like simple cartoon love stories. It's only possible for people to understand the depth of these depictions if they have acquired some life experience. For instance, I always thought that Rogue was overreacting every time she found it difficult to interact with others in an intimate manner. It seemed very juvenile how she wanted to forgo her power so that she could touch others without harming them. And that is extremely normal for children to think, because any kind of superpower seems like winning the lottery at that age. But if you ask me now, I'll say that I definitely understand where she was coming from, and maybe if I were in her place, I would have done the same. Her relationships were always messy because of this, and unfortunately, people only try to fix or control her instead of respecting her autonomy. Similarly, I do not like the way Scott would always feel the need to protect Jean. Yes, he loved her and all, but she was capable enough to handle herself. At some point, his affection crossed the line and turned into some form of control. It's weird how, considering how she was one of the most powerful mutants, she was still treated as a fragile being and sidelined emotionally. This is a very real example of how women are infantilized and made to feel less in control, under the guise of care. I know this is not going to be popular, but don't you think how male characters like Wolverine were allowed to have crash outs and were never put on the stand for it, while Jean's entire Phoenix arc is something people still blame her for? Why are men allowed to have levels of psychological complexity while women are called unstable and emotional for losing control? Heavy censorship fights. We all know how Marvel executive Margaret Loesch had to go to many lengths to have an X-Men animated series on air. Networks always complained that the material was not suitable for kids, and rightly so. This show was very loyal to the comics, to the extent that it is sometimes called an animated translation of the original material rather than an adaptation. However, there were a lot of censorship hurdles the showrunners had to deal with. For instance, no cursing was allowed, and even Wolverine would use very minced words. References to sex, religions, drugs, funerals, deaths, and torture had to be toned down considerably. Even words derived from and similar to kill were not allowed to be used directly. No blood was allowed, and definitely no nudity. All this was just the tip of the iceberg, so adhering to these restrictions and still making a show that is lauded to this day is simply amazing work. Even without these elements, the series still managed to find loopholes and deliver some very shocking scenes. If we go by what is strictly child-friendly, this show should not have been made for Sunday mornings in the first place. Everything else I have mentioned so far about the deeper themes, are any of them suitable for kids to comprehend? But hey, the pearl-clutching public at the time was fine with mass murder and slavery, just not sex or blood. An apocalypse that feels too close. Villains like Apocalypse are truly scary because their ideologies are not limited to fiction. The notion of survival of the fittest mirrors real-world fascist and eugenic ideas. The sense of impending apocalypse that all of us feel right now is not completely unfounded, because it does seem like we are simply one crisis away from complete annihilation. Leaders who embody extremism thrive during times of war, economic collapse, and climate anxiety because they promise some kind of order amidst the chaos. I'm really not being cryptic or poetic when I say this. Are we not worried about the future in today's scenario, where climate change has gone beyond the point of no return, and every new innovation, like AI for example, seems to usher in more bad than good? Marvelous verdict. From an adult perspective, we can see that mutants are not just fictional creations who have powers and are different from other people. They are not homo superior, just reflections of real people. The themes portrayed in the show do not feel dated, sadly. They just seem disturbingly current. Perhaps the reason why this show remains relevant is that it did not shy away from these uncomfortable truths. I'm sure that every one of us who has rewatched it after growing up has gained a deeper appreciation for it. Which storyline from X-Men the Animated Series is your favorite? Do you think there are other instances of non-child-friendly content that I might have missed? Let me know, true believers, in the comments down below. Excelsior!
Nah, I dare say. Yeah, that's pretty much a lot of us, though, man. When it comes to these older shows from the '90s, you know, and all their little subtle hidden meanings in their undertones. that deals with like racism, prejudiceness, and all those other dark themes. So, but it's a shocker, and as it was to me, for me first time seeing this, I'm like, damn, yeah, you're right. I mean, that's what it deals with. That's basically what it is X-Men. These mutants, who are basically in part also human, but because they're different than the normal human, they face that prejudice, as we all know. So, which mirrors basically what real life, is like when it comes to, people facing that now today, like us black people. So, that we basically face that, and in some cases, we face a degree of that still. But the lesson too, the one can learn from Magneto, who was the only one that showed that, where you must fight, that you must stand. That one anime I'm watching, fucking, there's this dude on this damn who was skating on these damn rollerblades and shit. So yeah, damn, I forgot his name, but he's like a teacher, but a badass assassin. Oh yeah, Token Anki. Character said this. He said something around the lines of the words of someone who's afraid to fight will never be heard by anyone. So it'll show some degree of fighting is necessary. Because you can't pull no let's reason about it type of Xavier bullshit when somebody is like attacking you or your family, whether inside your house or outside your house. Hell no, you're going to have to display a warrior spirit. What you going to do, ball up and let your family get attacked? No, nonsense. So yeah. But yeah, man, there's other, dark things too, like slavery being implemented in these older shows. They mentioned that too in the Thundercats. So yeah, X-Men 92, boy, that was my shit, man, back then. So I try to catch that as much as I could. If not, every episode, but so yeah, now that's so long ago. Things are kind of vague. So much content. You can only keep so much data in your mind. So yeah. All right, let's go to the next one. Shout out to Marvelous Anime.
'25 was a great year for all sorts of genres, including horror, creature features, and superheroes. There was some really good stuff gracing our screens, both big and small, and it looks like 2026 is shaping up to be something similar. From the Godzilla -1 sequel and Season 2 of Legacy of Monsters to new Cloverfield movies and fresh kaiju flicks, this year is going to be awesome for giant monster and kaiju lovers, and in this video, we're going to explore why that is with every major giant monster movie and series coming in 2026 and even beyond 2026. Let's begin, shall we? Number 1. Godzilla Minus Zero, late 2026. What Takashi Yamazaki did with Godzilla when he brought him back in Godzilla Minus One was nothing short of extraordinary. Mr. Yamazaki put all his creativity and might into pulling the character back to what made it so terrifying in the first place. This film stripped away the excess, focused on the more dreadful aspects of Godzilla, and reminded us that the king works best when you treat him like he's a punishment instead of a movie franchise mascot. So now that the sequel has been officially revealed as Godzilla Minus Zero, the obvious question isn't whether another monster will appear. I mean, of course one will. The real question is which monster actually makes sense for the kind of story Yamazaki wants to tell. Now, a lot of fans are jumping straight to the big names like Mothra, King Ghidorah, and Mechagodzilla. Now, these are all solid choices, all icons, and all monsters we've seen reshaped so many times that there's very little mystery left in them. Even Yamazaki has already explored versions of Ghidorah and Mechagodzilla outside the films. They would work, sure, but they would also feel too safe for their own good, and Minus One was anything but safe. If you take a look at Yamazaki's sensibilities, the answer becomes more clear. The monster that works in Godzilla Minus Zero almost too well is Hedorah, the smog monster. First introduced in Godzilla vs. Hedorah, Hedorah has always been underestimated because of how strange he looks. A shifting mass of sludge with huge eyes doesn't sound intimidating on paper, but in practice, Hedorah nearly killed Godzilla, poisoned cities, and left a body count that rivals any kaiju in the franchise. More importantly, Hedorah means something. Godzilla has always symbolized nuclear trauma and human arrogance, while Hedorah represents pollution, environmental neglect, and humanity choking itself without needing a bomb. Yamazaki understands metaphor better than most modern blockbuster directors, and he's already said Hedorah fascinates him. At a Comic-Con panel in 2024, he spoke openly about wanting to revisit the character and imagining how modern effects would redefine how Hedorah moves and feels on screen. This is important because Yamazaki's Godzilla is all about sharp motion and sudden violence. His creature doesn't lumber, he snaps. Hedorah, by contrast, is fluid, corrosive, and invasive. Visually, the clash between these two bigwigs writes itself, and with Yamazaki serving once again as writer, director, and VFX supervisor, the same role that earned him an Academy Award for Godzilla Minus One, the potential feels enormous. That film reportedly cost around $15 million and still won Best Visual Effects while earning $116 million worldwide. Yamazaki has already proven that budget limits don't limit imagination. Toho clearly agrees, which is why Toho Studios announced Godzilla Minus Zero during Godzilla Day in Tokyo, confirming Yamazaki's return and revealing that he even illustrated the teaser artwork himself. Production is underway with filming planned across Norway and New Zealand, and the studio is aiming for a late 2026 release. This also fits the franchise's larger history. Godzilla has endured for over 70 years, beginning with Godzilla and continuing through 38 or so films, officially recognized as the longest-running film series in history. Each era reflects its anxieties, and right now, environmental collapse feels far more immediate than alien invasions or robot doubles.
Images here in the studio. For those of you just joining us, Lower Manhattan is in an absolute state of...
2. Cloverfield sequel. TBA. Back in 2022, Paramount revealed that a new Cloverfield film was officially in the works. Babak Anvari, the filmmaker behind Under the Shadow and Wounds, signed on to direct what was described as the first true sequel to Cloverfield. Then, as it sometimes happens, the updates stopped coming in and there was enough silence to make people wonder whether the project had slipped into the same void as so many half-born franchise ideas. Then, the South by Southwest Film Festival happened, where Anvari premiered his latest film, Hollow Road. On the red carpet, he finally broke the silence around the upcoming Cloverfield sequel, even if only slightly. Asked about the status of Cloverfield 2, Anvari admitted he couldn't share details, mainly because the team remains intensely secretive. What he could say was that the project still lives, and whatever form it takes, his hope is that audiences get, quote-unquote, something amazing. It's not much, but it's enough to confirm that the sequel hasn't vanished. That secrecy, though, has been a constant with the franchise. Cloverfield arrived in 2008 as a found footage shock to the system, but ended up dropping this massive creature into the middle of New York City, and then it let panic do the rest. The film followed 6 people as the city collapsed around them, with a cast that included Michael Stahl-David, Odette Justman, Mike Vogel, Jessica Lucas, TJ Miller, Lizzie Kaplan, and Ben Feldman. Next thing we know, the film series basically turned into a strange experiment. 10 Cloverfield Lane was great if you see it as a standalone tense bunker thriller. The Cloverfield paradox tried to stitch everything together through a multiverse explanation, but many people weren't exactly pleased with what it had to offer. What happened was that this strange approach created a franchise that was primarily defined more by implication of events than through thoughtful continuity. The idea that a rupture in space-time scattered monsters across timelines became the loose glue holding everything together. It worked when the story stayed an intimate one, but absolutely struggled to walk, let alone fly, when it came to the mythology and deep lore. This is why this new sequel seems important. This time, the plan is to connect it with the original film, which may seem like a safe bet, and we're sure many people agree that this is the correct way to go. Andvari seems like a good choice for this new outlook that Paramount seems to be considering. His work thrives on atmosphere, fear rooted in personal space, and fear that creeps slowly inside of you, growing like a feature-length fever dream. You pair that with Cloverfield, and it feels like a match made in some alien heaven or hell. The script comes from Joe Barton, while J.J. Abrams returns as a producer through Bad Robot, and he's joined by Hannah Minghella and John Cohen. Executive producers include Brian Burke, Matt Reeves, and Drew Goddard. Furthermore, the franchise even extended into print with Cloverfield/Kishin, which explored the days before the original attack through the eyes of 2 students. 17 years after the monster first hit Manhattan, Cloverfield still holds power because it knew when to stop explaining. If Andvari keeps that instinct intact, this sequel could finally deliver what the franchise, and we, deserve, and that's anything but a puzzle box or some sort of a multiversal detour. 3. Godzilla x Kong Supernova, March 26, 2027. By now, it's clear that the MonsterVerse has no intention of slowing down. After Godzilla x Kong, the new empire tore through theaters in March 2024 and became the highest-grossing entry in the franchise at nearly $572 million worldwide. As expected, a sequel announcement followed in May of 2024, and by June, the next chapter started taking shape. Adam Wingard, who was behind both Godzilla vs. Kong and the New Empire, was forced to step aside due to scheduling conflicts and commitments elsewhere, but the door stayed open for his return someday. In the meantime, the baton passed to Grant Sputore, best known for I Am Mother, which obviously led to a paradigm shift in tone. The next film is going to be called Godzilla x Kong Supernova, and production began in April 2025 at Village Roadshow Studios in Australia, and the release date has been set as March 26, 2027. We also have cast details already, and if everything goes well, we'll have Caitlin Dever leading the human side of the story, and she'd be joined by Dan Stevens, who returns as Trapper Beasley, and then there's Jack O'Connell, Delroy Lindo, Matthew Modine as a general, Alicia Debnam Carey, and even Sam Neill. If you ask us, this cast tells us that the filmmakers took past criticism about thin human arcs seriously and decided to do something about it. In fact, even the creative team looks promising. Dan Mindell would serve as the cinematographer, while Stefan Deschamps would take care of the production design. Kelly Port returns for visual effects, and Henry Jackman is the composer. David Callahan, who worked on early drafts of Godzilla from 2014, has been brought back to write the screenplay along with Michael Lloyd Green. Callahan's name is important here because his writing credits are now specifically linked to characters from Godzilla and Godzilla vs. Space Godzilla. Oh yeah, Space Godzilla appears to be the real deal here. The Supernova title was speculated even before it was revealed back in May 2025, and thankfully, the Writers Guild listings later pushed things from theory to near certainty. Space Godzilla has only appeared once in live action, and bringing him into the MonsterVerse is definitely a calculated risk. He's cosmic, strange, and visually aggressive in a way few kaiju are. More importantly, he represents a shift away from Earth-bound rivalries and Hollow Earth politics, for lack of a better term, towards something bigger and colder and meaner. How he fits into the franchise remains the real question though, and this is where things get interesting. The MonsterVerse loves reframing old Toho ideas through its own mythology rather than copying them outright. In Godzilla vs. Space Godzilla, the monster overwhelmed Godzilla until humans deployed Moguera. whose job was to destroy the crystal growths on Space Godzilla's shoulders, the source of his power. Once those fell, Godzilla could finish the fight. Translate that to Supernova and the shape becomes obvious. Kong replaces Moguera. He isn't a weapon built by humans, but he fills the same role as the tactician. The Monsterverse already treats Kong as the problem solver. A 2-on-1 clash where Kong identifies Space Godzilla's weakness while Godzilla delivers the final blow feels almost inevitable. There's also the deeper lore angle. Early Godzilla vs. Kong concept art once hinted at a winged Godzilla figure tied to an ancient Titan war. Later material clarified that Godzilla himself, along with Scar King, drove that conflict. Still, nothing fully explains why the Godzilla and Kong species clashed so violently in the first place. Supernova could reopen that door without undoing what's already established. Space Godzilla doesn't need to be ancient, but he could be the catalyst that turned rivalry into war. Then, there's the concept of extraterrestrial hierarchy. King Ghidorah arrived from space and briefly ruled Earth's Titans. If Supernova reveals that Ghidorah fled from something worse when he came to Earth, Space Godzilla instantly becomes the franchise's apex threat without extra exposition or competition for that matter. There's also the biological angle. The new empire introduced Godzilla Evolved, a form born from prolonged exposure to radiation-rich crystals. It reframed how Godzilla adapts and mutates. Apply that logic backwards, and Space Godzilla could be a corrupted member of the same species, altered by alien matter rather than terrestrial radiation. This would keep the story Godzilla-centric instead of drifting into pure sci-fi spectacle. Lastly, Space Godzilla could also merge with Orga from Godzilla 2000. An alien organism that seeks Godzilla, absorbs his DNA, and reshapes itself into something stronger. This would even satisfy the Monsterverse's love for hybrid threats while bringing the story from Hollow Earth to open skies. If the new empire proved the Monsterverse could lean into spectacle without messing around, we will have nothing to complain about. Number 4. Kaiju Island of Fire 2026. I'll say it, there's something really reassuring about a kaiju film that doesn't try to reinvent the wheel, sell you a cinematic universe on day one, or wink at the audience every 5 minutes like it's done something novel. Kaiju Island of Fire feels cut from that older cloth. More details that come to light, clearer its intent becomes. This is a straight-faced monster movie born out of fandom, craft, respect for the genre's roots. The movie is currently in production in Japan and is ready for a 2026 release. As far as the premise is concerned, we got ourselves a combined military and science task force heads to an ancient Japanese island where members of a construction crew vanish while building a new military base. They find that the island has turned hostile, thanks in part to the volcanic terrain and geological instability. The real reason is a terrifying creature that the place hides. What sells this even more is who's behind the camera. Andrew L. Phillips writes and directs this one. He spent years as a Hollywood stuntman on films like World War Z, The Dark Knight Rises, and Captain America: The First Avenger. That kind of CV usually translates to a filmmaker who understands scale, physical danger, and how bodies move through destructive spaces. For instance, let's take a look at Chad Stahelski. That guy served as the stunt double for people like Keanu Reeves in the Matrix movies, Brandon Lee in The Crow, and also Chad went on to make John Wick movies. See what we mean when we say Andrew L. Phillips's attachment to this new project is important? Moving on, production comes from North Star Pictures JP, Avery Guerra, and James H. Christie producing. Film will be the first chapter of a planned giant monster franchise. In what seems like a love letter of a cast to kaiju history, we've got Robert Scott Field, Chuck Wilson, and Kent Gilbert reuniting after their work in Godzilla vs. King Ghidorah. We also have Yoshiro Uchida, best known as Toshio Sakurai from Gamera, the Giant Monster. After quitting acting for music and later reappearing in projects like The Great Buddha Arrival and Nezura 1964, his role will be much appreciated by long-term fans. Enough about the cast though. Teaser art and posters are already revealing a volcanic kaiju, something that appeals to your more primal senses, looking overtly flashy or forced. Teaser trailer debuted exclusively at G-Fest in Chicago, limited lobby cards for attendees, so not a lot is yet known. Let's see what happens next. However, we gotta say, we like that Kaiju Island of Fire knows exactly what it is, and it isn't chasing trends, trying to outdo Hollywood budgets. 5. Monarch: Legacy of Monsters 2, February 27th, 2026. While Warner Bros. Is going all guns blazing into the MonsterVerse movies, Apple TV isn't easing off the gas with Monarch: Legacy of Monsters. From what we can tell from the newly released 2026 trailer, it seems that Season 2 means business. After months of anticipation, finally have a proper look at what comes next feels bigger, darker, far more consequential. The second season arrives on February 27th, 2026, 10 episodes dropping weekly until May 1st. And yes, Kurt Russell is officially back alongside Wyatt Russell, Anna Sawai, Kiersey Clemens, Ren Watabe, Mari Yamamoto, Joe Tippett, and Anders Holt. Season 1 laid the groundwork carefully. Two siblings chase the truth behind their family's connection to Monarch, the secretive organization at the center of the MonsterVerse. Their search pulls them into a long-running mystery linked to Army officer Lee Shaw, played by both Kurt and Wyatt Russell, across two timelines. One timeline runs in the 1950s, the other decades later, Monarch facing exposure because of what Shaw knows. It was a smart approach, grounded in people before spectacle, which made the monsters feel heavier when they did appear. Season 2 picks up with everything on the line. Monarch's future hangs by a thread, the ripple effects of old decisions are finally hitting full force. The story pulls characters back to Kong's Skull Island, kinda like a reckoning. From there, the narrative expands again, introduces a mysterious coastal village where a new titan rises from the sea. What we like most here is how the show keeps leaning into the consequences of past decisions. Behind the scenes, Legendary Television continues to anchor the series, with Joby Harold and Tori Tunnell producing through Safehouse Pictures. Chris Black returns as showrunner for Season 2, joined by Jen Roskind, Matt Shackman, Andrew Colville, and Lawrence Trilling, who also directs 4 episodes. Colville writes 2 episodes as well, which helps keep the voice consistent. Toho remains closely involved, with Hiro Matsuoka and Takimasa Arita exec-producing, reinforcing that this series still treats Godzilla's legacy with respect. Apple TV's multi-series deal with Legendary also stays in place, which explains the confidence behind this rollout. The 2026 trailer doesn't reveal everything, and needless to say, the mystery it creates works in its favor. We get flashes of monster action, hints of political pressure, and enough variables to remind us that Monarch exists in a world that can collapse at any moment.
This was a circular dispersal.
Fire in the hole.
6. Young Lee Shaw Untitled Spin-off Series. So as we just explained, Apple TV and Legendary clearly like what they've built with Monarch: Legacy of Monsters, because they're not slowing down at all. MonsterVerse is officially expanding again, this time with a new prequel series centered on a younger version of Lee Shaw, once more by Wyatt Russell. If Season 1 of Monarch was about peeling back layers, this spin-off goes straight for the roots. The new series focuses on Lee Shaw in 1984, long before the modern-day fallout we've already seen. Shaw is an American operative sent on a covert mission behind enemy lines with one clear objective: stop the Soviets from unleashing a titan powerful enough to shift the balance of the Cold War. That premise alone tells you that this won't be a casual side story. This is geopolitics colliding with kaiju mythology, feels very on brand for where the MonsterVerse has quietly headed on television. The creative spine seems like it's got some balls here, maybe not, because anatomically that doesn't sound healthy or beneficial, but regardless, we got Joby Harold as the showrunner. Harold has signed an overall deal with Legendary Entertainment, which makes him in charge of overseeing the entire MonsterVerse slate on Apple TV. It looks like they really do trust him with long-term planning, think this is good for consistency across stories, timelines, and titans. Harold already serves as an executive producer on Monarch: Legacy of Monsters, which, as we just explained, turns for Season 2 in February. So this new spin-off will be something of an extension to Legacy of Monsters. Wyatt Russell is also an executive producer. The Dish producing lineup stays stacked, with Safehouse Pictures involved, continued cooperation from Toho Co. Limited, owners of Godzilla. That ongoing Toho partnership remains a quiet, crucial reason this franchise hasn't lost its identity. From our perspective, this makes sense. Monarch proved that the MonsterVerse works best when it treats humans as more than reaction shots between monster fights. Lee Shaw is already one of its strongest anchors, and dropping him into the pressure cooker of the Cold War gives the character sharper edges. Espionage, secrecy, moral compromise fit this universe better than endless city leveling. This series will also find its place with ease among Legendary's larger timeline. MonsterVerse began with Godzilla in 2014, grew through Kong Skull Island and Godzilla King of the Monsters, Godzilla vs. Kong, and more recently, Godzilla x Kong: The New Empire. Next up is Godzilla x Kong Supernova in 2027. Across films and shows, the franchise has crossed $2.5 billion globally, and Apple's multi-series deal makes it clear that this isn't a one-off experiment. For Wyatt Russell, this is another high-profile chapter alongside upcoming work like Steven Spielberg's next film, major franchise roles elsewhere. The Monsterverse, it's proof that Apple TV and Legendary want new depth. A focused prequel about a single man trying to stop a titan from reshaping history seems like a great way to do that. That's all we got for you this time, but if you enjoyed this video, please consider hitting those like and subscribe buttons. Those 2 small clicks from you will help us tremendously in bringing you more of these marvelous videos. Thanks for watching, stay safe out there, and have a marvelous day.
Whoo-wee. Boy, I can't wait, man. Damn. And I don't think I've seen Monarch yet. I was like, damn, I thought that was like, I know it's somewhat separate, in its own, but then again, it intertwines too, in part of the story. But I haven't seen it yet. No, I've seen Godzilla -1. Yeah. I was looking at this like, damn, I haven't seen. Yep. See, another one on my list. Yep. So, I'm part of that monster universe. Yep. I'm 80s kid, damn it. Yep. So, that monster universe shit. Hey, I was all about that, man. So. And yeah, it doesn't seem like it died down, but it does seem like, it takes them somewhat of a long time to come out with their monster movies. Maybe like a year or 2 gap in between. But, oh man, this new Godzilla shit, yeah, man. King Kong Godzilla. What, Supernova, oh man. I gotta see that one. That's a must. That is a must. Like, I'm wondering, like, damn, man, what is it going to entail, man? Like, is it going to have Godzilla and King Kong bickering at each other or tag teaming up again, like, straight through? That would be cool. Because I don't care to see them fighting together. Like, I don't want to keep seeing continuous movies of them two fighting each other. Man, maybe fun, cool, like, oh, hey, man, funny guys, yeah. I'm like, yeah, that's funny guys, but break it up, man. Break it up. It's time for us to challenge these, take on these other creatures. Come on, let's go. I don't want to see them like fighting each other. I don't care for that. But yeah, let's go into the next one.
So after hearing Hank Pym tell his origin story, now it's time for us to get the scoop from Janet Van Dyne, who, as it turns out, was a triple agent this whole time. That's a lot of work. So let's just hop into it. But first, if you're enjoying these videos, be sure to drop a like, subscribe if you're new to the channel, and don't forget to hit that bell up top to get all notifications. Alright, so of the 2 stories, Ultimates issue 19 continues. The first one is Ultimate Endgame issue 1, because now this follows what happened to everyone else after Tony and the others went inside the city, when the Ultimates network went down and Nick Fury took his opportunity to strike the Triskelion satellite and blast it out of orbit, which he was able to do thanks to inside information provided by Janet Van Dyne. And again, instead of following Tony and Doom and what's going on inside the city, this time we follow the events outside. And much of this we see from the perspective of Janet Van Dyne, which is perfect because now we finally get the other half of her and Hank's dark origin story, which we saw back in Ultimate Spider-Man Incursion. And I have that link in the description for anyone who might have missed it. But coming back, this starts out with Janet's narration as soon as the Triskelion satellite was shot down, with her saying, "What would you sacrifice for what you believe?" The uprising is happening all over the world, but Captain America, Hawkeye, Hank, and I have taken up the liberation of the East Coast, mobilizing multiple Ultimate cells and a battle group of Avengers. To reinforce his position, Captain Britain has brought in his army Neverending, an occupying force of enslaved English culture heroes, elves, giants, fairies, ogres, goblins, trolls, orcs, etc. It's make-believe run amok. Last week, Captain America killed King Arthur, and he'll be back. In Avalon, they have resurrection spells and cauldrons of rebirth. Captain Britain himself refuses to leave Camelot, surrounded by good luck gold seized from Leprechaun treasury, which is maybe why he's winning despite being an inbred idiot. The fighting has been going on for a month with no signs of slowing down. We've all made sacrifices. Many have made the ultimate sacrifice. Some of us sacrifice in other, less obvious ways too small to see with the naked eye. And that's where Janet just flies into this giant's ear and grows right out of him, using an attack that she probably should have led with. You know, they're talking about how this fight's been going on for a month now, ever since Tony's speech. And when Hank sees this, he's just like, nice one, babe. Not horrifying at all. But also, this is the moment where the Triskelion comes crashing down out of orbit, and everyone gets the alert that the Ultimates network is down. And Hawkeye's gear is able to get a really good look at the falling wreckage and identify it as a Triskelion. And now Hank's saying what everyone's thinking. He's like, how? But Captain America's like, it doesn't matter. There are at least a dozen people on board. We need to perform a search and rescue. And for Janet, who doesn't want to go, she's like, you know, with the Triskelion down, there's no teleporter. But Cap doesn't care. He's like, I guess you gotta go on foot. Good thing you two take such big strides, huh? So Hank and Janet go ahead and make their way there. But along the way, Janet gets back in her head, and she starts thinking about how she never wanted to get married, which now takes us into hearing her side about her and Hank's past, which is new now because the story we got before in Ultimate Spider-Man Incursion, that was from Hank's perspective after the accident. But now this goes on with Janet saying, I never wanted to get married. I saw what marriage had done to my mother, and I swore I'd never let it do that to me. Besides, I had dreams, big dreams. I wanted to leave a mark on the world. Marriage would only hold me back. But then I met Hank. It was at one of my father's corporate balls, which were generally just a bunch of old men, titans of industry, or distinguished scientists. And then, one day, Hank. He was just a boy in a room full of old men, but he took up space somehow. We started seeing each other casually. Neither of us wanted anything serious. We just liked being together. There were ups and downs, like any relationship. Sometimes his animated brilliance would cross over into mania, and there were days I couldn't get him out of bed. But these were rare and short-lived. It was a small price to pay for what we had. Every night we'd order food and just talk sometimes until sunrise. He'd describe a new theory of matter, and I'd show him designs. Hank never made it seem that one was more important than the other. He was the only man I ever met who didn't try to make my dreams seem small. One day I realized, despite my best efforts, I was in love. I remember it exactly, because it was the same day as Hank's accident, the day that changed everything. But that's just where it starts, because when they get to the crash site, Hank points out that there's no way anyone could have survived this. And he even points out that LaJorie, or She-Hulk, was up there too. But not too long after, they find one of the survivors of the crash, who's one of the volunteers from Doom's program, Project 4, and this girl is messed up. And now Janet rushes over to her saying things like, you're going to be okay, and I'm sorry, but I don't even know your name. Only for that girl to die in her arms. And it just has Janet like, I did this, it's my fault. Which again echoes the idea, or it brings back the question, what would you sacrifice for what you believe? Because even this girl laying here had a choice, and she chose to follow what she believed, only to later pay the ultimate price. But Janet's so caught up right now, it takes her a while to hear Hank yelling her name, and he's trying to get her attention because they got a cumulo carrier heading their way, and this one's the big dog. But also about 1,000 miles away from the main Triskelion crash site, we see a few hand agents checking out another spot where they were told a roughly human-sized object had also made re-entry and landed here. And now these guys are also like, oh, ain't no way somebody survived that. Falling from space? Please. But when She-Hulk hand reaches up from that crater, she comes out and she goes to work. And most of this we don't see because time just jumps forward and by then these guys are dead. But for She-Hulk, this experience has given her a whole new perspective. It's given her more anger and made her stronger. Cause she says here, enslaved my people, killed my comrades, shot me from the sky. But I thank you for helping me reach this new place. I thought I knew anger before. I thought I knew rage. I knew nothing. It was naive to believe a boy would save us with homemade armor and gleaming castle in the sky. I was a fool to put his priorities before those of my people. It is good to have my feet on the ground again. I see with clarity again where I belong. I had hoped to return with an army, but I will have to do. See, LaJorie's taking it up another notch yet again, but we gotta wait to see what that means. And in the meantime, going back to Janet, this whole experience of her seeing the main crash site, it causes her to get back in her head with her saying. They said it was a miracle Hank survived the crash. I'd say it was debatable. He finally woke up, 4 weeks, 3 brain bleeds, and 18 surgeries later. He was a different person. It was like someone had erased his mind. Later I'd find out that's exactly what they'd done. Thinking too hard, the kind of rigorous, sustained thinking his work required, gave him awful headaches. He could no longer do the crossword, much less high-level physics. And in her flashback, you can see her dad coming to tell her that she's firing Hank, and how she should leave him because she has her whole life ahead of her. And Janet continues here saying my father was right. I had my whole life ahead of me. And this wasn't the man I fell in love with. The man I fell in love with could recite French poetry from memory. The man I fell in love with could speak eloquently on quantum entanglement and Greek literature. This man struggled to string simple sentences together. This wasn't the man I fell in love with. I had to walk away. But then, after everything he'd been through, he said something amazing. And that's when she remembers Hank opening his eyes and asking her if she was okay, which just had Janet like, how could I walk away from that? And she goes on saying we were married a few weeks later at the courthouse. When my parents refused to attend, a few friends and old colleagues agreed to be our witnesses. Without the financial support of my parents, I had to worry about money. That was new. I had no job experience, so all I could get was retail and waitressing work. Hank got a job cleaning bathrooms at the university where he used to teach. Then Hank's long-lost uncle died, and Hank inherited a van and a bunch of bug-killing equipment. So I designed a logo and we made the most of it. It wasn't exactly couture, but it put food on the table, and we got to be together. It was a small life, smaller than expected, but I was happy. And it's like once again we see the Ultron extermination equipment. But Janet continues here saying mostly, still sometimes I stayed up at night imagining that other, bigger life, the one that died in the crash. It was so big I had to crane my neck to see it. That's when they first came to me. They came to me in the night. And now this is where we're given a very unexpected twist. And I mean, part of it is expected because we know at one point Janet was recruited by Nick Fury, but what we didn't know is that this whole time she was also working with someone else. And to keep it from Hank, she would just lie about it and say she was going out to a sipping knit or something. But she continues here saying the training was 4 nights a week. Hank never knew a thing. The course seemed random and bizarrely specific. Subjects like hand-to-hand combat and air-to-air combat, ethics, leadership, military history, and strategy, physics, especially as related to mass, density, and momentum, espionage, of course. They even had me practice with synaptic control interfaces. And we even see Janet ask here, when is this going to be useful? And that's where someone out of frame with a robotic voice just tells her, you never know. And Janet goes on to admit here that she hated lying to Hank just before we go back to a conversation she was having with that robotic third person who she'd been working with. Because Janet tells them we can trust him. He's a good man. He's my husband. And that's what they tell Janet. It's not about trust. Hank's a good kid, but you know as well as I do, he's too soft, too emotional. If he really knew the way the world worked, he wouldn't like it. It'd eat at him inside. And that's where Janet asks them, how do you know that? And they tell her, I just do. If you love him, you'll keep him in the dark for as long as you can. So going forward, she continued to keep it all a secret from Hank. And she continues here saying, that's why I did it, for him. Or at least that's what I told myself at the time. But if I'm being honest, and I want to be more honest, I did it for me too. I loved it. It felt like I had purpose. I felt my life getting bigger than I could have ever imagined. But later on, things changed for Janet, because she didn't understand how important her role really was until her and Hank got their origin boxes. Which is kind of funny, because like we saw, when Hank first saw the origin box and he learned about 616 Hank Pym, he hid it from Janet. So now we know they were both hiding something from each other. But after learning who she was supposed to be, this totally changed things for Janet. And we see this in the flashback where she's having these secret meetings with the robotic voice individual, to where before Janet was telling them, send me on a mission. You've been training me for years, let me put it into practice. Only for them to tell her, no, you have to be spotless. We can't risk you having a criminal record. And before meeting Tony, Janet was like, why not? What makes me so special? But then after hearing the truth about how her and Hank were robbed of their destinies, this changed the way that Janet saw everything. And when referring to the day that they met Tony, she's like, then one day I saw it, the vision. And that's when the mystery robot with the glowing white eyes says, do you understand now, Janet? And that's when she's like, I think so, some of it. And that's when they tell her, we've been putting this together for a very long time. It's all been planned out. And now back in the present day, when we pick up with Hank and Janet, we see Hand coming through with the heat. And you would think with it just being Hank and Janet here, they would either take it easy or keep it pushing, because Director Fury guaranteed Janet both her and Hank's safety. But at the same time, who knows how many Nick Furies ago that was. But either way, when Hand drops down, they're going for the kill. And Hank's getting lit up. So that's where Janet, she just bodies all these guys. She's zipping through, she's blasting, everyone gets touched. And really it just has me thinking, from everything we've seen in this issue, it's really made clear how much Janet loves Hank. Because I mean, we knew from Ultimate Spider-Man Incursion how Hank has always felt. Because he loves her to death, and sometimes he feels like just leaving in the middle of the night without saying anything. Because he thinks she would be better off without him. And with us knowing at the time about Janet working for Director Fury, it made things seem like Hank was just a job for Janet. And who knows, that may have been the case at one point, until someone went back in time and compromised the Nick Fury, who was going to turn on the Makers Council anyway. Who knows? I'm gonna hang on to that theory till we learn some more. But now that we have Janet's side of the story as far as the history, a lot of it lines up with what Hank said in Ultimate Spider-Man Incursion. But in the here and now, after Janet takes all these dudes down, Hank's just like, wow, you're amazing. You know that? Just before he is hit hard. So as he shrinks, Janet grows to catch him, and she's like, stop this. And one of the agents just tell her the director wants anything with superpowers destroyed on sight. But she cuts him off. She's like, hand is power, hand is magic. Hand will make us clean. Cause she's serious. She just goes straight into the secret agent code words and all that. Cause she goes on saying, code phrase Amber Turncoat. And she tells him the identifier code. And she's like, we work for Fury. We're on your side. But of course for Hank, this is all new to him. So he's like, wait, what? And when Fury gets there, he's like, that's all right, boys. I'll talk to them. Then he's like, come to see your handiwork up close, eh? Seriously, great work, Van Dyne. Couldn't have done it without you. And as Hank is hearing this, he's asking Janet, what does this mean? And now Janet's just trying to tell him that she'll explain. But Fury just keeps going because he's being a jerk about the whole situation. Because he tells Hank she did it for you. You know, to protect you. While Janet's telling him to shut up. Then Fury leans in and he's like, nasty scar there, by the way. Must have been some accident. And it's pretty obvious what Fury's doing here by dropping these conspicuous hints to intentionally bait Hank towards figuring this out. Because we know the harder Hank thinks, it just triggers his crazy headaches. So even when he tries to tell Janet that he doesn't understand what's happening, she tries to explain, but it's all too much for Hank right now. And that's where Fury's like, oh, I don't think he's taking it too well, Van Dyne. He seems unstable. So she's just like, it's from his old head injury. He'll be fine. But then Fury's like, this is not the picture of a man who's gonna keep a secret. But Janet's like, he's fine, it'll pass. And that's where Fury's like, hell, it's not the picture of a man. Which is crazy to say. But when Janet says here, none of this is what it looks like, I almost feel like she's reassuring herself in this moment, but Fury responds to it saying it looks like a liability for all of us. And right there, Janet's just like, I can't do this anymore. Do you hear me? And Fury tells her, well, too bad. We're not done with you yet. We'll keep your Hank as our guest. We've got plenty of room in the holding cells. Then when Hank asks her why would she do it, she says, I had a vision, Hank. And Hank's like, I know, I was there. And she's like, no, not Tony. And Hank's like, oh, you work for him now? And Fury's like, you're damn right. She does. And a hand just phases right through his head, killing this fake Fury number. I'm not even going to pretend to know what number Fury we're on now, because they've been life model decoys for a good minute. And just after we see this was done by the Vision, who goes on to say, she works with me. And I believe we're going to get the Vision's full origin in the next issue. But if I had to guess, I'd say that this vision all started after Doom brought Tony back and Tony gained the ability to see throughout time. Because from that moment, Tony was able to see countless instances across time within the window before the Maker's return, which is how he first found out that the whole team had already died and Doom brought them back using the Immortus engine. But I'm pretty sure that's not all that Tony learned, because ever since then, heading into the change from Ultimates 2.0 to Ultimates 3.0, Tony's had the team moving different, because at this point, time travel is no longer off the table, and even for this meeting in of itself, Tony made sure to make the arrangements for half of the team to meet up remotely, almost as if he knew their location would soon be compromised, and that someone had already been working for the other side. So this just has me thinking, if Tony were able to plan a mole first, before Janet was ever brought in, then he could piece together an intricate plan all the way up till the Maker's return. And I'd even go as far as to say that a previous Nick Fury may have even helped him out with it, since they all eventually betrayed the council up until a certain point. And once Tony's mole is in, they can just continue as a part of Hand from whatever point in time that they got there, with or without the help of any of the Furies. And now Tony's mole may have been Jim Hammond, referring to that special mission that Jim was getting ready to go on back in issue 13, which would make a lot of sense, but we really won't know until we get the full story later on. But just going by what we're seeing now in issue 19 as far as Janet's backstory, which was strangely held off this whole time up until now, in addition to the Vision being revealed. And now it's like the Vision, and especially the name Vision, this has to be a callback to Tony being able to see events throughout time and him changing up the plans after he came back. But as always, drop all your theories in the comments below. And if you enjoyed the video, be sure to drop a like, because also I wouldn't be surprised if some of Janet's training pertaining to physics, mass, and density were really just helping the Vision upgrade over time. But who knows? Let me know what you guys think. And so now real quick, I'm going to give a special shout out to all the patrons. Thank you guys for all of your support. And for anyone who's new here,
yeah, good shit, man. Shout out to Dosefield, man. Man, that's and no Watts bitch, man. Hey, she's something else, man. She's wild. And turn up in this form, the Vision, yeah, that's something else, dude. Like, I haven't been deep into her comics like that or whatever, but Man, from what I see, I'm like, damn, this is very interesting. Very intriguing. So this is my first time seeing this. So yeah, shout out to Doseville, man. Right on, bro. So I'm gonna continue on checking that out. There's other good brothers, man, that covers these comics other than Rob from Comics Explained. So yeah. So all right, let's go on to the next one because we're already past our deadline. So all right, here we go. I think it might be the last one. I think I made one or two more. Okay, done with that. Yep. Here we go.
What's going on, guys? This is Rob, and Angela is coming to Marvel Rivals, so I figured why not make a video breaking down her character, giving you guys a better understanding of what her character's about. Now, before we get into any kind of explanation, let's do dessert first. Let's talk about her powers. What can she do? Well, within Marvel, Angela is basically an Asgardian, and I'll talk about what that means here in a second. But she shares the same powers that most Asgardians do, right? She's got superhuman strength comparable to that of Thor's, along with superhuman durability, endurance, and stamina. She also possesses an incredibly advanced healing factor, which kind of seems unnecessary because unlike most all other Asgardians, she is truly immortal. Most Asgardians have to consume the apples of Adun in order to keep themselves alive. But with Angela, she never ages and she does not depend on sustenance to survive. And it should also be noted here, within Marvel Rivals, it was announced that she's supposed to be a Vanguard, so I wouldn't be surprised if she played in a very similar way to Thor. But on to the explanation. So if what you're looking for is a quick and dirty explanation on who Angela is within the confines of Marvel Comics, the long and short of this is that Angela is the daughter of Freya and Odin, and she is basically from the 10th realm. Most of you guys are familiar with the 9 realms of Asgard. At one point there were 10, and in fact what had happened is a war had broken out between the angels of the 10th realm and the Asgardians. And during this war, the queen of the angels from the 10th realm had taken Angela and seemingly killed her in front of Odin because Odin refused to accept a truce or a ceasefire. And the result of that was that Odin, in a fit of anger, had cut off the 10th realm from all of creation and then wiped all knowledge of its existence from the history books. Now, there's certainly more to it than that, which is kind of what we'll get in here, because in order to really understand what the deal is with Angela, you actually have to wind the clock back to the early 1990s, because Angela is not originally a Marvel Comics character. Angela is actually a Spawn character. Now, this came by way of a deal that Todd McFarlane had brokered between himself and 4 other legendary comic book writers. You had Alan Moore, Neil Gaiman, Dave Sim, and Frank Miller. The idea was that each one of these writers would write a single issue of Spawn, starting with issue number 8 and ending with issue number 11, respectively. Of course, Neil Gaiman wrote issue number 9. The reason why this is so important is because when Angela initially makes her appearance in the Spawn comics, she's actually presented to us as an angelic bounty hunter who's there to kill Spawn, because that's her job. It's what she does. Well, she hunts down demonic forces like Spawn, a former government assassin who was betrayed. His soul was sent to hell. He made a deal with the demon Malboja to basically become a member of his army and even lead his army. He's bonded to a demonic symbiotic suit and then returns to Earth in order to be with his wife Wanda, because it's the one thing he wants the most, and it's the reason why he even made the deal. And then he basically becomes this ridiculously overpowered anti-hero. But what's really interesting about the initial encounter between Angela and Spawn is that because of her experience, Angela actually believes she's going to defeat him quite easily. But the opposite happens, and Spawn defeats her. Now, later on, Angela's framed for trying to kill Spawn without a permit to hunt him down, and then she's put on trial in heaven for this alleged crime. Spawn ends up showing up and then testifies on Angela's behalf, basically explaining that she did in fact have a permit to hunt him. It's comics from the early 1990s, guys. Just go with it. But the angels of this Tribune just simply don't listen, and instead of attacking Spawn and Angela, force them to work together. And so Angela and Spawn are briefly trapped in hell and then try to start a romantic relationship that doesn't really last too long. And then eventually they make their way out of hell, and Angela returns to heaven, vowing that from that point on, she'll simply work for herself. Now later, in the lead up to Spawn issue number 100, there's a couple of demons that end up releasing a dark god by the name of Urizen, who just proved to be too powerful for Spawn to beat by himself, which prompts Angela to join the fight. Now, the two of them eventually imprison Urizen before finding out that Malebolgia himself was the one that was pulling the strings the whole time and was actually responsible for the release of Urizen. So Angela and Spawn venture to hell to battle Malebolgia. Now, Angela is able to mortally wound Malebolgia himself, but then Malebolgia manages to run Angela through with her own lance, which essentially kills her. And so in anger, Spawn cuts Malebolgia's head off and then returns Angela's body to the angels in the hopes that they can resurrect her. So with that kind of quick bit of a Spawn history out of the way, how does a Spawn character become a Marvel character? Well, something to understand about Image Comics is that it was founded on the principle that whatever creators create, they own. And so when Neil Gaiman was approached by McFarlane to collaborate on Spawn, the two agreed that Gaiman would retain creator rights to any characters that he created. But later on, McFarlane used the fact that there was no written contract in place to claim that he owned the character of Angela, as well as all the other characters created by Gaiman, pointing to the fact that this was just how comics worked. And so this set up a pretty lengthy conflict between Gaiman and McFarlane over who the rightful owner of Angela was. Now, in 2002, Gaiman sued McFarlane for failure to pay royalties on the character that Image continued to keep publishing, but Gaiman won the suit. And so Angela, along with two other characters that debuted in Spawn number 9, were now the joint intellectual property of Gaiman and McFarlane. Now, in 2012, Gaiman and McFarlane ended up coming to an agreement that Angela would become Gaiman's sole intellectual property, while McFarlane would retain the rights to two other characters that were part of the lawsuit, which were Medieval Spawn and Cagliostro. And so with the rights to Angela secured, Gaiman wasted almost no time and sold the character to Marvel Comics in 2013. And so Angela made her first appearance in Marvel Comics in Age of Ultron issue number 10. Now, all you have to know about Age of Ultron within the confines of this discussion is that Wolverine was basically doing a whole bunch of time travel. And because Wolverine's the best there is at what he does, which is not being the sharpest tool in the shed, he essentially broke time. So Galactus ended up in the Ultimate Universe, for example, and with the character of Angela, she simply just appeared on the very last panel saying that she had been brought to the Marvel Universe against her will and vowed to hunt down whoever was responsible. Now, the next time we see her is in Guardians of the Galaxy number 5, where the team encounters her on her way to Earth, and then after initially fighting with her for like 2 issues, they finally manage to subdue Angela when Uatu the Watcher shows up and explains that she doesn't really belong in their universe. Now, the Guardians hold Angela prisoner on their ship, and then she finally tells them that she's from a place called Heaven, where she was trained to be a hunter. She does explain that she was ripped from Heaven and ended up in outer space, where she was able to see Earth, which she thought just to be a legend, and then with the Guardians of the Galaxy convinced that she was telling the truth, they end up freeing her, and then she goes to Earth to see for herself that it and the humans that inhabit Earth are real. And so Angela leaves for a short time, but then shows up to rescue the Guardians from Thanos' forces and then joins the team for a little while. But the really interesting stuff for Angela in the Marvel Universe starts with the 2014 Original Sin event by Jason Aaron. And this kind of cycles back into that quick and dirty explanation that I gave you guys earlier. The storyline here is basically that the Watcher's murdered at his base on the moon, and a bunch of heroes come together to figure out who did it. Now, when they arrive on the scene, they find the Watcher's eyes have been basically taken from his head. It was a pretty gruesome scene, but it becomes significant because the Watcher, as his name implies, has seen every major event in the history of the universe. It's literally why he exists. And so his eyes contain pretty much all of the universe's biggest secrets. And so once Thor finds himself in the presence of one of the Watcher's eyes, which had literally been blasted to all the superheroes by a guy named the Orb, who's literally a dude with a giant eye for a head, Thor ends up finding out that he has an older sister. Now, here's the important thing to understand here. Thor did not initially know that Angela was his sister. All he knew was that he had a sister, because that goes in to that part of her being killed, quote unquote, as a baby. And so what ends up happening is that Thor goes to visit Freya, who doesn't really spill a whole lot of the beans in terms of what happened. She gives some measure of an explanation, but it's only one part of the puzzle. But throughout the entirety of the Original Sin tie-in for the story of Angela, Angela, what you learn is this, that her name is actually Aldrif, Odin's daughter, and that when she was a child, Asgard was at war with Heaven, the 10th realm, which up until this revelation, nobody knew existed. And that was simply because of punishment for killing Angela, that Odin cut off the realm and the angels that inhabited it from the rest of creation. And so Thor ends up journeying to the 10th realm, and then Loki sends a telepathic message to Angela telling her that the portal to heaven is now open and she could actually return home. And so Angela shows up in heaven right at a time when Thor is being confronted by all these various angels within heaven. And the reason being because the realm of heaven itself is not that dissimilar from Wonder Woman and Themyscira, which is to say, a place that's only really occupied by women. And while I wouldn't go so far as to say that Thor's arrival as a guy was immediately met with disdain, they were a little suspicious. But because of the fact that they harbored such a hatred for Asgardians, as soon as Thor had revealed that he was from Asgard, they immediately tried to kill him and Loki. And so that leads to Thor basically battling all these angels, while at the same time, Loki just kind of slithers out and then goes and meets with the Queen and then kind of secures his own role through all of that, which ultimately leads to betrayal. We covered all of that in our video on the origin of Angela, which is far more in-depth than what we're covering here, so you're welcome to check that video out. But like we mentioned, during our first encounter, Angela beats the crap out of Thor. I mean, it's to the point where like he never really has a chance. A lot of that's because he's so exhausted from having already fought so many of those angels. And so the second time they meet, when Thor is fully rested as he can be, being held a prisoner, as well as channeling the power of a storm, he of course overcomes Angela quickly. I mean, within a matter of a couple hits. So it's kind of a back and forth between the two of them. But during the midst of this second battle, Odin shows up and simply explains that when the Queen showed back up to heaven with Angela's body as a baby, she didn't know that Angela as a baby was still alive. And so she simply handed Angela over to another angel who was supposed to throw Angela into the incinerator, only for that angel to realize Angela was alive. And so what she ended up doing was taking the child on and raising her as her own. And so at the conclusion of the story, the Queen of Heaven, in learning all this for the first time, because of the fact that Asgardians are not welcome, ultimately spares Angela because she's the most capable of all the angels and the best of all the angels just in terms of battle prowess, but she does exile her from heaven. And so, leaving to explore other realms, Angela returns to Asgard, but this time it happens in her own solo series called Angela, Asgard's Assassin. This was written by Kieran Gillen and Marguerite Bennett. It's a phenomenal story. When she arrives in Asgard, Angela ends up discovering that Odin has actually fathered another daughter because he can't keep it in his pants. So she kidnaps it and then goes on the run with her girlfriend Sera, who's also another angel, as Odin sends Thor and the Warriors 3 to catch up to both Angela and Sera. Now, they end up learning that the child had actually been possessed by the demon Surtur, who, as most of you guys know, is a pretty significant enemy of Asgard, and they end up taking the child to heaven to cleanse it of Surtur's spirit. Now, as Surtur's spirit is expelled, the engines of heaven had actually reignited, and so Angela then returns the baby to Odin, but then discovers that Sera is actually another longtime Thor villain, the dark elf Malekith. The real Sera, she ends up learning, was actually killed in battle, and her soul remains in hell. So Angela gets another solo series called Angela, Queen of Hell, where she literally goes to hell to request that Sera be released. Now, Hela, who you guys know is the ruler of hell, refuses this, and so Angela launches an assault against the throne of Hela herself and ousts Hela from her own realm. Now, it doesn't last very long, because Angela quickly abdicates the seat, which leaves her half-brother Balder to rule, and then takes Sera back to Earth. But in 2020, Marvel launched a new team called Strike Force, billing them as the team that would do the dirty jobs that the Avengers simply wouldn't do. So basically a Black Ops Avengers team, which fills kind of the same role that the X-Force comics do for the X-Men universe. But Angela is actually a co-leader of the team along with Blade, and the series lasted for about 9 issues before it was canceled. Since then, Marvel hasn't really done anything with Angela, right? She's just kind of been there, and a lot of people would argue that Marvel's sort of squandered her. The only real significant thing that we've seen with her character, if you can call it significant, is that she did show up in a couple of issues of Immortal Thor to help the children of Odin find their brother Tyr, who'd been imprisoned by the cosmic entity, the In-Betweener, and possessed by the entity Oblivion. But honestly, she plays a pretty minor role in all of that, so your mileage may vary on whether or not you think it's significant. But with that being said, guys, guys, we're going to bring this to an end. Angela's one of these characters where she was really, really cool when she was introduced, and then Marvel just never really did anything with her. But hopefully it gives you a better understanding of her character. Let me know if you guys want me to do a more comprehensive explanation of her time in Spawn. There's not really a whole lot to go on there, but maybe it might be deserving of its own video. And yeah, I will catch you all later. Peace.
Yeah, shout out to Rob, man. And Comics Explain. Shout out to him, man. Because, dude, I didn't know this, Angela. I didn't know this bitch was supposedly, Thor's sister. Thor's lost sister. And when I first seen recently that because I seen another video covering her, I was shocked to see that she whooped Thor's ass. I'm like, damn, dude. So that's two sisters that whooped your ass. And speaking of the other sister, I'm surprised just now seeing it right along with you guys for the first time. Yeah. Did she overpower Hela to the throne? You know, so she can free your girl? Yeah. That's something else. You know, because you know, the way she moves, she's faster and all that shit. Yeah, I get it. You know what I mean? Faster than Thor and them. But damn, so I'm like looking at the power scaling. Like, you know how powerful she gotta be, y'all? Because Hela crushed the first, you know, the original Mjolnir with her own hands. So that means, okay, so Angela, so therefore Thor's sister, Thor's other sister, her redhead, she looked decent, boy. Shit. I'm thinking of a number of women that could play her in a movie. Shit, y'all need to hurry up and put her in something. TV show, movie, or something. Shit, let me see who y'all gonna have play her. And it better not be no bitch, damn it, that look like, damn it, hell, she's just started lifting curls and shit 2 weeks ago type of bill. No. I don't want no broad though that looks roided out. You know what I mean? No. But, you know, I want all that shit to be natural. You know what I mean? So, just like, damn it, when we get a Chun-Li, we hate it, damn it, that when we get a Chun-Li, she barely got any damn quads. Like she does from the game. Cool, you know those quads that make you want to bite each leg, you know what I mean? Yeah, so that. So, but yeah, let's go to our last one real quick. Yeah, so yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing more with her though, man, because that lets me know right there, damn it. It's highly possible shit. She might end up thrashing the Hulk. Ooh. But which Hulk though? All right. So yeah, let's go to our last one.
Hello and welcome to another marvelous video. I'm your host Will, and if you're like me, you're a huge fan of both Marvel Comics and of the Marvel movies. Well, I've got good news for you. In the year 2026 and beyond, we've got more Marvel movies coming out for your entertainment. So sit back, relax, and we'll go over the various movies coming out for your pleasure. Let's get to it, true believers.
I've been eagerly tracking what Marvel has planned for us after 2025, and let me tell you, their slate is jam-packed. From Spider-Man swinging back in a fresh adventure to the next Avengers epics, there's so much to cover. I won't be extending the intro a lot, so yeah, in this video, I'm breaking down each big release and what we know so far about each of those, from casting, story details, release dates, and anything else that you should know. Let's begin, shall we? Spider-Man, Brand New Day, July 31st, 2026. This is basically Spider-Man 4, starring Tom Holland again, while the title, Brand New Day, was actually adopted from the 2008 Spider-Man comic arc by Dan Slott and Steve McNiven, namely Amazing Spider-Man number 546 from March of that year. In fact, after the title was announced, the comic book became obnoxiously popular as well as expensive on eBay. Now, I'm not sure if you've read it, but the story is basically a restart for Peter Parker, which makes sense now, because in No Way Home, Peter's life was reset as everyone forgot he was Spider-Man. Marvel Studios has confirmed Brand New Day takes place after the upcoming Avengers Doomsday, and if we are to believe early reports, Peter is trying to lead a normal college life and even gives up being Spider-Man for a while. But of course, a new threat appears out of nowhere, and Peter is forced to become the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man once again. Cast-wise, Zendaya and Jacob Batalon will be back as MJ and Ned. Sadie Sink of Stranger Things fame is going to appear as a new character, but her role is still a mystery. On the other hand, Jon Bernthal's Punisher has also been confirmed, and Kevin Feige says it'll be a family-friendly version of the Punisher. Basically, he'll be PG-13 violence without any R-rated violence. But I'm not sure if watering down the Punisher is such a good idea. We would also see Mark Ruffalo return as Bruce Banner / the Hulk, and Michael Mando back as Mac Gargan / the Scorpion. Marvin Jones III would be playing Tombstone, a mob boss from Peter's past. But here's the cherry on the cake. Even Charlie Cox is expected to cameo as Daredevil. Story-wise, the movie is tying up loose ends from No Way Home, and we have confirmed news that filming finished in late 2025. And we got a first look at a sleeker new costume. So Peter's entering his new day visually too, so to speak. But you know what? That's not all the story details we have. For example, there's a clip of Peter lying in some kind of spiderweb-like cocoon, and it seems like there's gonna be a mad spider in the movie somewhere. Personally, I'm skeptical of it because it might just be a slow-motion swing or an illusion. Either way, Brand New Day is like a reboot of Tom Holland's Spider-Man franchise, but it's an in-universe reboot. And from what I've read, it should be fun with lots of classic Spider-Man street-level action, since there's no Stark Industries to provide him with new tech or suits. But I'm personally excited to see how they juggle Punisher and Daredevil into all this while continuing with the whole college setting.
So that I may fight once more, defeat one more enemy.
Avengers Doomsday, December 18, 2026. Join your hands together for Avengers 5 because it looks absolutely huge. I repeat, absolutely huge. The Russos are directing and, as you may know, RDJ is back in the MCU, this time to play the main villain, Dr. Doom. The title Doomsday is pretty much the comic event of the same name, which is basically this massive multiversal threat led by Doom. From official info and leaks, it is clear this is the team-up or crossover movie. I mean, this time around, you do not just have individual superheroes joining hands, you have entire superhero teams coming together, and that's all the Avengers, plus the Thunderbolts, plus the Fantastic Four, and even the X-Men. We don't have an official synopsis, but it seems Doomsday will pick up the multiverse saga right before Secret Wars and will serve as a direct sequel to Avengers Endgame. In other words, what Robert Downey Jr.'s Iron Man did at the end of Endgame had its repercussions across the multiverse, and maybe that's why the same man has returned as Dr. Doom, or one who looks like Tony Stark. In classic comics, Doom, after getting all powerful, tries to claim the universe for himself. And remember, Tony Stark wore the Infinity Gauntlet, making him the most powerful being across the multiverse. So the movie likely follows that idea, that Doom might be overthrowing realities with the same face, but a different mantle, name, and allegiance. Then there's the whole theory where he's supposedly abducting super babies. Cast-wise, we basically have everyone, including the core Avengers, the Thunderbolts, the latest Fantastic Four, the OG X-Men, but that's not all. We would also get to see others like Shang-Chi, Loki, maybe Hugh Jackman's Wolverine, and Channing Tatum's Gambit. Naturally, there are several theories doing the rounds in Reddit circles and fandoms. One idea is that the Avengers and the X-Men could clash first and then team up. Simu Liu, the man who plays Shang-Chi, mentioned in an interview that he was thrilled to work with Professor X and Magneto. So, it seems Shang-Chi is in scenes with Stewart and McKellen, and Shang-Chi is an Avenger now, which suggests the Avengers and X-Men do end up on the same side by the end. Furthermore, Reed Richards' son Franklin, who's super powerful, is Doom's primary target. And of course, everything ties into Secret Wars. In the comics, Doom's big move in Secret Wars was collapsing the multiverse and creating Battleworld, where he basically ruled as its god emperor. It is plausible that Doomsday is setting up exactly that scenario. Blade, to be determined. Blade's new movie has been talked about for years, but as of now, it's still largely TBD. I mean, we know that it will happen, we just don't know when. Mahershala Ali is supposed to star as Blade, the Daywalker vampire hunter, and Marvel confirmed he's in the MCU. The project has had a rocky road, and as you may know, it was announced at the San Diego Comic-Con 2019 and rumored to film in 2023, but it's been repeatedly delayed. In mid-2025, news came out that Marvel was cutting back and Blade had not started production yet. Director Bassam Tariq left, multiple writers came and went, and some original cast, like Delroy Lindo, ended up dropping out after rewrites. So it's definitely in a holding pattern. The only confirmed thing is Mahershala Ali as Blade. Early on, Delroy Lindo was cast as possibly a vampire elder, but he's out now. Aaron Pierre was attached in an earlier draft, but that fell through too. The one intriguing nugget, however, is that Mia Goth has been cast, and many think she'll play Lilith, a famous vampire sorceress from the comics. Also, Ali's Blade was already teased at the end of Eternals. That little cameo was basically Blade introducing the Ebony Blade, the magic sword that Dane Whitman wields. Blade's character comes from Marvel Comics, originally debuting in a 1973 Tomb of Dracula story. In comics, he often faces off against Dracula himself or other vampire-themed or supernatural monsters. We don't have a plot, but probably they'll go for a typical action horror thing, and maybe he'll find himself a good old underground vampire lair to storm. There's also legit hope that they would tie him to Morbius. Right now, speculation is all we have, and I wonder if Blade will meet Black Knight in his solo movie, especially because Dane has the Ebony Blade now. But more likely, this Blade film will introduce Marvel's supernatural side to the MCU, like vampires, demons, and maybe ghost-like creatures. For now, we have to be patient, and that's the only thing we can do, unfortunately. Avengers: Secret Wars, December 17, 2027. This is being billed as the next Avengers movie after Doomsday, and seems to be the culmination of the MCU's Phase 6. The Russo brothers would direct, and it means to cap off the entire multiverse saga. If you and I can believe the rumors, Secret Wars is very much inspired by Marvel Comics' seminal event, especially the 2015 version. In the comics, the Earths of the multiverse start collapsing until only one remains, and Doctor Doom, with mind-boggling cosmic powers, becomes the God Emperor of this new battle world. But of course, the Avengers eventually overthrow him. Feige himself said Secret Wars is about beginnings, and hinted it would sort of reset the MCU timeline. So it is clear that Doom would survive Avengers Doomsday to return as God Emperor, and the heroes would have one final reality-saving battle. As far as the movie's cast is concerned, it would have those heroes who survived the events of Doomsday, but there are rumors that Nick Fury may return. Nearly everyone expects Secret Wars to riff on the 2015 comic event. That means the movie could show the multiverse incurring, which would be a la Doctor Strange 2. Albeit on steroids. Then there might be powerful beings like the Beyonders working behind the scenes, and eventually Doom getting godlike power. One theory is that the Scarlet Witch could return from wherever she is to play a role, since comics had her in some versions of Secret Wars. Another is that the Beyonders might manifest as a cloud of power and maybe even use Franklin Richards to change the dynamics of the war. Spider-Man: Beyond the Spider-Verse, June 4th, 2027. Let's switch gears to animation now, shall we? So, Spider-Man Beyond the Spider-Verse is the third and final installment of Sony's animated Miles Morales saga, which, of course, means that it's separate from the MCU Spider-Man. It follows Into the Spider-Verse from 2018 and Across the Spider-Verse from 2023. This one starts right where the last left off, and Miles is still stuck in another universe called Earth 42. And is naturally desperate to get back to his home universe to his family. Directors Bob Persichetti and Justin K. Thompson promise this will conclude Miles' story arc. Furthermore, the villain of the piece is the Spot, voiced by Jason Schwartzman, who was teased in Across and now becomes the main antagonist. Also on the roster are many Spider people like Spider-Man India, played by Karen Soni, Spider-Punk, played by Daniel Kaluuya, Nicolas Cage's Spider-Man Noir, and so on. And all of these are fan favorites. Plus, Spider-Man 2099 will also appear alongside Tombstone. Interestingly, there's also an Earth 42 version of Miles himself who's become the Prowler, and would be voiced by Jarrell Jerome, so Miles will literally face a variant of himself. One interesting theory is related to why Sony put Beyond in 2027 just before Marvel's Secret Wars. I believe Marvel plans to reset its universe after Secret Wars, so Sony probably wants to finish Miles' saga on their own terms before that reset. Basically, Sony gets to wrap up Miles' multiverse story without worrying about Marvel's bigger timeline changes. Right now, speculation is mostly about how Miles will return home and what he might encounter. The casting of the Spot as a villain suggests we'll get a lot of crazy dimension-hopping fight scenes. I also wonder if any of the old Spider-Men, like Tobey or Tom in animation form, could cameo via portals, but that's unlikely, and not hinted anywhere yet. The main theory is that Miles must use the Spider team Gwen assembled to find a way back to Earth 1. And since Across was all about choices and paths, I expect Beyond to explore how Miles' decisions affect all the Spidey universes. It's a series that really celebrates its characters, so I imagine the ending will be both satisfying and a little bittersweet for longtime Miles fans. Shang-Chi 2, to be determined. Shang-Chi 2 is currently in development limbo. It was announced early, not long after Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings in 2021, as an upcoming sequel, with Destin Daniel Cretton set to return as director. But since then, Marvel's focus has shifted to other installments. In mid-2023, Simu Liu said he still wants a sequel, but that Shang-Chi 2 will come out only after Avengers 5. Then plans changed, and Cretton had to handle Spider-Man 4, which is Brand New Day, and the Avengers film featuring Kang was retooled into Doomsday, and so on and so on. However, we know Simu Liu as Shang-Chi is attached to the movie, and Destin Cretton is expected to direct when it happens. No other cast or story details have been revealed. The sequel will surely deal with magic, since Shang-Chi 1 was about all kinds of mystical realms and stuff. In fact, Marvel did call Avengers Doomsday Shang-Chi's love letter to action films. And you know what? Simu Liu is also being hyped for Dune 3, which is going to release in the same week as Doomsday. So you can expect what many are calling a Doomsday, much like a Barbenheimer, which was the collective name for Barbie and Oppenheimer, two big movies that also released in the same week. Black Panther 3, to be determined. Ryan Coogler is definitely coming back to make Black Panther 3, and he's on record that it's his next movie. We even have word from the New York Times that the third Wakanda film is expected to hit theaters sometime in 2028. Marvel has some open 2028 slots, and insiders think Black Panther 3 could take one of the slots, like February 18th, May 5th, November 10th, or December 15th. So, tentatively, expected late 2028 unless plans change. Only one actor is officially confirmed so far, and that is Denzel Washington. So, Washington has a role that Coogler is writing just for him. The guess is that he'll be a new villain. Aside from Denzel, the likely cast includes the returning Wakandans like Letitia Wright as Shuri, the current Black Panther, Denai Gurira as Okoye, Michaela Cole as Aneka, Florence Kasumba as Ayo, and Winston Duke as M'Baku. And in all honesty, all these folks should and must come back. Tenoch Huerta's Namor, from Wakanda Forever, might also return, but his appearance probably depends on how things go in Doomsday, as he's on that roster too. Oh, and T'Challa's young son, who showed up in Black Panther 2, is still around, but he's a kid now, so he won't be Black Panther for decades. From what we know, Shuri is set to continue as the hero. At the end of Wakanda Forever, she decided not to be queen. She passed the crown to M'Baku, so presumably, Shuri will protect Wakanda as Black Panther, and M'Baku will rule as king. The tricky part is that Shuri is announced to appear in Avengers Doomsday, so we'll have to see how exactly she survives that multiverse melee. As for enemies, Disney and Marvel have given almost no clues. However, Wakanda Forever set up some tensions, as in now the world knows about Wakanda's vibranium, and other nations might come a-knocking, as they always do, and you know exactly which nation I am talking about. So Black Panther 3 could deal with international politics around oil, I mean vibranium. Additionally, Namor's relationship is yet another thread, as Wakanda and Talokan had a truce, but could that truce break down, especially since Namor is in Doomsday casting? I mean, I really don't know if he'll stay as an ally or go rogue. Armor Wars, to be determined. Last up is Armor Wars. Now, this is a tricky one. This was announced way back at Disney Investor Day 2020 as a Disney Plus series starring Don Cheadle's James Rhodes, also known as War Machine. The idea was to adapt the classic Iron Man comic story where Stark's tech gets stolen, and Rhodey has to stop it. Kevin Feige even said Tony's legacy and armor would be the most important aspect of the storyline. Don Cheadle himself said Tony's death was a big deal for the show. In 2022, we learned that Disney moved Armor Wars from a series to a theatrical movie. Riri Williams, aka Ironheart, was supposed to appear, but then Avengers Secret Wars was announced and the project seemed to stall. At this point, Armor Wars is basically on indefinite hold. Marvel hasn't given any official news, but insiders and rumors say it's probably not happening. According to insider Alex Perez, most of what they planned for Armor Wars got moved into other MCU projects. Specifically, he said the War Machine storylines may be scattered into Vision Quest, an Ultron series, and the Wonder Man TV series, leaving only Rhodey's personal arc, which isn't repurposed, in doubt. In other words, Marvel is sprinkling those elements elsewhere and scrapping the standalone Armor Wars film. If it did happen, Armor Wars would center on Rhodey dealing with Tony Stark's tech. The comics have him fighting villains like Crimson Dynamo, Justin Hammer, the Ghost, and Firepower using stolen Iron Man armor. However, I am not too hopeful about the project. And, despite having said that, it's still an exciting time to be a Marvel fan. Of course, things can always change, and as you may know, Marvel is famous for changing its plans without much notice. I mean, Kang Dynasty becoming Doomsday is one of the biggest examples of the same, although I won't get into the reasons. But based on what we know today, and the many rumors we've explored, there does seem to be a future slate. I hope you found this helpful. And I know I'm counting down to see these films. Keep an eye out for more news, and maybe put on some comfortable shoes for all those theater runs. And if you like the video, please consider hitting those like and subscribe buttons. Those 2 small clicks from you will help us tremendously in bringing you more of these marvelous videos. Stay safe, and have a good one.
All right, y'all. Yeah, man, that was a good run, man. Shit, dude. Yeah, there was a lot in that video. Oh man, of all these projects and I want to see that, man. I want to see War Machine again. That was bullshit, you know, them changing their plans and, you know, kicking Jonathan Majors to the side, you know, just to bring in Robert Downey Jr. as Dr. Doom, but probably gonna write as okay that he's, you know, that he looks like Tony and have it and write as okay that the characters in the show, Thor them is gonna see him and say, oh, is that Tony? Nah, that's Dr. Doom. He looks like Tony, but that's Dr. Doom from a whole nother universe type of shit. So yeah, they could easily, you know, explain that before they done multiple types of shit like that, you know, doppelgangers shit, you know, they're very familiar in being able to use and utilize doppelgangers in their movies and shows, DC and Marvel. So, but still, you know, still bullshit on that note. But Shang-Chi 2, you know, which is on TBD, and also this TBD is the new Blade. I'm waiting, you know, I want to see both of those because, yeah, I know that would be badass, man. And these 2 movies, you know, as they're hyping them up to be, these 2 movies coming out these next 2 years from now,
Doomsday and Secret Wars are supposed to be the biggest Marvel movies they came out with in a long time. So yeah. And man, and there's just so much more. So yeah, you know, there's a bunch of replay value in this content right here, and this good content, man. I'm giving y'all. So yeah, so you guys can come back and, you know, check it out again. You know, revisit this this stream. You know, for all the replay value you need. All right, so. This your guy Ray Hama, 1 versus a million. I'm not your fan. I'm not your stand for. I am brother. Please hit the like, share, and subscribe. And hit the follow to follow me over here on Rumble to catch me whenever I go live for movie nights and anime nights, in which we'll be having a movie night coming up real soon. So, we have a martial art movie called Fighter in the Wind. All right, so I am out, and here's our outro. And Happy New Year.